Hello everyone, and welcome to Pinetar and Pigskin. My name's Bryce, that's Jake. We're here with you on a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the fall. Here to discuss the best time of year, sports in the fall. The football season's rolling. Today will be the kickoff of Week 3, Steelers and Browns tonight on Amazon Prime. And the Major League Baseball season is down to its just final 4 series in the regular season. This time in 2 weeks, we'll be gearing up for the Wild Card Series, first ever Wild Card Series. So it's a great time for sports. It's a great time to discuss. How are you doing? What's on your mind?
Baseball, 61 is on my mind.
Big
That's
number.
for sure.
Big number.
Upsets in the NFL, which is every week. That's what's on my mind. How about you?
Upsets in the NFL is something that you always get 1 or 2 a week. If you want to know how many upsets there have been, I am in a pigskin pick'em league. You know, you pick a team each week to win, and you can't use that team again. So we started with 980 some people. Wow. Here at the start of week 3, we're down to 225. In 2 weeks, we've dropped 700 people because all of these obvious games have went by the wayside. Yeah. I'm still alive, thank God. You're going to help me make my pick for this week a little bit later, but trying hard to stay alive in that. But if that doesn't show you how the NFL has been, I don't know what has. It has been wild, particularly last week. Some unbelievable upsets, not just within who you think would win the game, but a game that you think was long over, and teams showing that it's a never say die kind of season. It seems to be so far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I got down, the 3 biggest comebacks of week 2 in the NFL. First, I wanted to say Jets versus Browns.
Yeah.
Jets, an improbable comeback. They scored 14 points. They were down 13 with 1:22 left.
Wow.
They got the onside kick. Garrett Wilson went off. He's a rookie. Jets receiver, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Nice.
Joe Flacco, looking like 2012
Vintage Joe Flacco.
Crazy. 307 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was clutch as ever. And if you're a Browns fan, that was the first home game of the season. You got to be pretty upset about that.
For the Cleveland Browns, I mean, what an existence it is just to be a Cleveland sports fan. Outside of LeBron James, it's just been devastation after devastation in different formats. I can't remember the exact number, but I read a stat that teams up 13 points with a minute and somewhat left to go were 290-some-0 in their last 290-some. Yeah. The last team to blow that lead, Cleveland Browns in 1950-something.
There you go.
So there you go. If that's Cleveland. But let's talk more about the Jets. Yeah. This is not the same Jets of old. Now, are they a playoff team? No. But this is the reason they brought in Robert Saleh. This is the way the organization wanted to go. The key thing we're going to find out here, and it's very similar to the situation with a lot of quarterbacks along the league, is this is going to be Zach Wilson's year. He doesn't need to be unbelievable, but just how the Jets are looking to take a step forward, yeah. So does Zach Wilson. Flacco is not the quarterback of the future. They're only playing him because Wilson's hurt. But he actually has weapons to use, and what that means for a quarterback is it's actually time for us to start sort of judging him.
Yeah, and Breece Hall, another rookie from the Jets, running back out of USC, excuse me. He had a big game too. They do have a lot of weapons. Their defense is pretty good, I would say. It's just they're in a really, really tough division. They have the Bills and the Dolphins in the division, and the Patriots too, who are kind of underwhelming. We'll talk about them later, but it was really good to see Robert Saleh on the sideline. I like him.
Yeah.
He said before this week, save the receipts. He saved them. Everyone was writing them off at the beginning of the year, but they're 1-1. But the Browns, though, I do like their team. I do think Jacoby Brissett is a good backup.
I agree.
Amari Cooper had a big game, which hurts me to see that. And Nick Chubb had a big game too. So they just gotta keep running the ball, and they gotta be better on defense. Myles Garrett has to get more pressures.
Absolutely. I mean, the big issue for the Cleveland Browns, we all know, is that they're without their new star quarterback, Deshaun Watson, for at least half of the season or so. So for them this year, it's kind of keep your head above water until he gets back. Well, Brissett has done his part in that. It's not his fault at all, which if you looked at them before the season, you might have assumed that would be the reason. Now, it's been the defense. They've let them down. The offense is a well-rounded offense. They have a lot of supplementary pieces.
Yeah.
It's a matter of getting that defense in line. But that's a division that looks to be very interesting early on. And we'll touch on the rest of the teams. But for me, despite their meltdown, which we're going to get into in a minute here, Baltimore's a clear one. But everyone else, there's a lot of opportunity for someone to come out as the second-place team. Heck, even the first-place team in that division.
Yeah, and you said the Ravens. That's who I had next. The Dolphins beat the Ravens 42-38.
Oh, man.
A shootout. An offensive, two offensive juggernauts going off. And Tua, who everyone, I feel like he just gets forget about. He has a lot of talent. He played for Alabama. He knows what he's doing. 469 yards, 6 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, their new addition, he had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jalen Waddle as well. The Dolphins look scary to me. Their only problem is their defense.
I agree.
They could not stop Lamar running the ball. They even had big plays. I mean, he had a big play to Rashad Bateman, too, in the middle of the game. But, man, those Dolphins look scary.
They look really scary, and it's interesting to look at the Dolphins over the past couple of years. They've had one of the more interesting arcs in the league because it was a couple of years ago that they kind of went on that hot streak at the end of the year, and their defense was lights out. And we thought, okay, if they get the offense to match this, here they go. They were underwhelming. It didn't quite work. Tua's in. Tua's criticized. You said it perfectly. The only thing I would add in regard to what people's perception of Tua is he's either forgotten, and when he's remembered, he's usually talked poorly about. People do not give him respect, and I'm not saying he's earned it yet, but he also hasn't earned the negative aspect that he seems to be clouded in. Well, have a hard time painting 462 yards and 6 touchdowns negatively. I don't care what your weapons are. As a quarterback, you have to use them.
Definitely.
And right now, they look to have the best 1-2 tandem in terms of wide receivers in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Waddle and Hill. I mean, that's what this team was down 28-10, I believe, or somewhere in that term. And you know what? They stopped being cute. They went deep shots to the two of them, and the two of them took turns burning the Ravens secondary, and it worked out pretty much play after play. Now, I'll say this much about the Dolphins' defense. Sometimes in the NFL, you get these games where the offense just sort of runs on a treadmill and they just absolutely brutalize the defense. So, yes, they gave up, 40-some points?
Yeah.
That's a terrible look. But, I mean, Lamar was just running them over. And for a big part of that game, they were just off the field. I mean, they were just on the field constantly. You're going to get exhausted as a defense, especially when a guy like Lamar is running around on you. If you actually watch the game, the defense was a part of them being able to make that comeback. They made a couple of key stops on the last couple of drives of the Ravens offense. So it's a step for them, improvement next week. I'll be curious to see who they match up with. But, yeah, man, the Bills are such a powerhouse, but you have to be excited about Miami, one of the young, talented teams this year.
I saw a video of they reverted the game where Tua looked like he was throwing righty, and it looked flawless. And I think people don't like him they don't like lefty quarterbacks.
Sure.
You've seen Tim Tebow.
Always been that, yep.
But, I mean, he has, if you revert the video, he has the mechanics down, and I love Tua. I'm a Tua fan. So
the big thing with Tua was the deep threat. That was the perception people developed, was that he couldn't go deep. Well, I'll tell you this much. If you believe that, I really wouldn't believe it anymore after that game, because he has two of the best deep threats in the league, and he utilized them both perfectly.
And they shored up the offensive line. They got Connor Williams from the Cowboys.
Yep.
They moved him to center, and he's been amazing. But with the Ravens, I don't think there's going to be any issues for them.
No.
I think they're still going to run away with that division.
I think they were just the first team to get victimized, like a lot of teams are going to be, by that wide receiver duo. I don't really care how good your defense is, unless you have one of the lockdown cornerbacks of the league. And even if you only have one, those two guys together, that's going to be... I'm very much looking forward to seeing how some of the premier defenses and defensive coordinators in the league game plan trying to stop those two guys, because it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. And the last comeback of the week, it was Cardinals beating the Raiders 29-23.
Yeah.
They tied it up with no time left on the clock with a 20-second play.
Yep.
Which I've never seen that before in my life. I don't know why the Raiders would only rush 2 the whole 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray's going to get out of there. He did. He scored. They got the 2-point conversion. And then Isaiah Simmons, redemption time. He had a rough week 1. He's a safety for the Cardinals. And then he had the big hit on Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah.
Fumble recovery for the touchdown. The Cardinals won. That was a big win for the Cardinals. Going 0-2, if I was a Cardinals fan, would be devastating. But they pulled it off. Raiders kind of look bleak right now.
Yeah.
As they had a lot of hype going into the season. So that was a crazy game. I did not expect the Cardinals to come back in that one.
The 0-2 narrative you speak of it's one of those early games that felt really big for both teams because these are both teams with high aspirations for this season, and they're both 0-1. And so as stupid as it sounds, there's that stat out there that the last, so many teams to go 0-2 have not made the playoffs. And I still believe that's a little bit of a funny business. I think there's a lot of teams, heck, it could be the Raiders, that if they put it together, they could run and be very competitive in this league. But you don't want to go 0-2. It's a tough hole to dig yourself out of, especially in the division the Raiders are in. They are in the most competitive division in the NFL. And for me, I watched this game. The Raiders, no discredit to the Cardinals, and they did make good plays, but I think the Dolphins made the comeback more than the Ravens blew the game, and same with the Jets. They made the comeback more. I feel like the Raiders blew this a little bit more than the Cardinals won it, and the Cardinals did a great job. I'm not undermining that, but they had opportunity time and time again to put this game away. Different turnovers on the last couple of drives. For them, the big thing has to be Davante Adams has been great. That has not been the problem. They need to find a way to get the rest of the offense going. Josh Jacobs has been meh. Hunter Renfrow's been meh. And on the flip side, I don't know if their defense is going to hold up with some of the premier defenses in the league.
Yeah, I don't like their defense at all, honestly. You said Adams. I think he's kind of having enough. I mean, they should throw him the ball way more.
I agree.
I think Noah Brown on the Cowboys, who had a good game last week, he has more receptions and more yards than Davante Adams right now, which is, you can't have that. You signed the best receiver in the league. You got to throw him most of the time.
You brought him over. I mean, just look at what Miami did. Like, they went to Tua and Waddle, and sure, having 2 of them, but that's why you have Hunter Renfrow. That's why you have Josh Jacobs. You have other pieces that you can also really lean into there. Yeah, but for me, at a certain point, when you're in that situation, late in the game, you need to put away touchdown. There's no one else you're going to. Don't overthink yourself. I think that's what a lot of these teams do with their big weapons. Don't overthink it. He's that guy. Just throw the ball to him.
And the Raiders, man, I don't see this going well for them the rest of the year because they have a stacked division.
Yeah.
The 2 teams I'm going to talk about now are in their division, looking really good. The Chiefs on Thursday Night Football beat the Chargers,
Yeah.
27-24.
Great game.
It was a really good game. All I had to say about this one is Herbert is a tough mofo.
He is.
He is tough.
Justin Herbert very, very quickly seems to be climbing the ranks in terms of most respected quarterbacks in the league for a young kid. He's got the talent. We've all seen it. But he carries himself with such moxie and determination. I got to get him in a good playoff game at some point because he feels like the kind of guy that will thrive under the pressure in that kind of environment.
And I think the Chargers would have won this game if Keenan Allen was active. He was not playing.
I agree.
Mike Williams had a huge day for them. I love Mike Williams since he came in the league. He's a stud. But the Chiefs, man, they just keep doing what they do every year. They get rid of Tyreek Hill. They sign Juju Smith-Schuster, and he's doing pretty well for them. They get rid of Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle. And their guys are filling in. Sky Moore has been good.
A lot of people have came into this year, half because of how competitive their division is, but half because it's just nature. Unless you're a fan of the team, you get sick of the dynasties. You look for them to go down because it's nice to see new teams, new faces. Everyone thought, okay, this division's competitive. They've lost. They haven't missed a step, the Chiefs. They've been right in stride. Patrick Mahomes has been in lockstep with where his career numbers are, which are ridiculous. And he just Mecole Hardman, but most importantly, Travis Kelce seems to have become the wide receiver number 1, the receiver number 1 as their tight end. We all know how excellent he is. They're just leaning into him more. Maybe defenses will try and figure that out. But yeah, for me, as much as the Chargers have been excellent, and I like them a lot, it was still the same song and dance. The Chargers winning another divisional game, the Chiefs winning another divisional game, and the Chargers losing a game by 1 score. That's how those teams have rolled the past couple of years. How's Herbert's health? I know he's got the rib problems.
I'm not too sure. I think he's good to go.
Okay.
They didn't really say much about it. I mean, he went back in the game, so.
Right, and he made an unbelievable throw coming back in the game, so.
Yeah, I think he'll be good to go.
As long as he's healthy, I would continue to put faith in them.
Definitely. And their defense, I think, is much improved. Derwin James, if he's healthy, he is the best safety in the league.
Yeah.
They got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on both sides of the ball, so they'll be good. They'll be good. I wonder if the Chiefs will see any break in their armor at all, because I don't know. They usually in the middle of the season they usually fall off a little bit, but they look like a beast in the AFC. And then the next game was the Patriots beating the Steelers.
Yeah.
17-14. That was a rough game to watch. I watched a lot of it.
It was if you like, it's the comparison we make for baseball, If you're a baseball sicko like you and me, you love a pitcher's duel. The casual fan wants to go and see homers. It was a defensive battle between two weaker offenses. So not only is it necessarily two good offenses getting shut down, but it's two really good defenses and two subpar offenses. It makes for kind of a boring recipe. But yeah, the Patriots, no one quite knows what to expect of them this year.
Yeah.
So for them to go out, it was good to see them get a win. But the big issue for them is going to be, do they have the offense to keep up with the rest of the league? And honestly, it's the same conversation they could have about Pittsburgh.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky's not going to get you many wins this year.
No.
I don't know. I guess they're just going to give Kenny Pickett some time like Mahomes, but I think it should be Pickett's time soon.
I agree.
Steelers are definitely missing TJ Watt a lot, I think.
Big time.
I think he would have changed that game a lot. Mac Jones, after a terrible start to the year, bounces back. There's not much. I mean, you just don't really know about these two teams.
Yeah, they're both kind of in that middle tier, hoping to break out. TJ Watt makes a difference in this game if he plays in it. I think the Steelers win it easily. He is, and luckily for them, not season-ending injury. He is one of a handful of defensive guys that can win the game himself. I think back to last year, it was either a Sunday or Monday Night Football game against Seattle. And the pressure he was able to continuously put on Russell Wilson, turnovers he made himself, he can make the kind of impact that Tyreek Hill made in that Miami game on defense. So they need him back. Like I said, that division, it's kind of murky right now. They're kind of in the same mode the Browns are without Deshaun Watson. Keep your head above water, stay 500, wait for him to get back.
Either of these two teams, I believe, could sneak into the wild card.
Absolutely.
I think so. So we'll see more in the coming weeks with these two teams. One team that I think is not that good. The other team we still don't know much about. Giants beating the Panthers.
Yeah.
19-16. Another one of those tough games to watch.
The field goal game. Big day for the kickers.
Big day for Graham Cano against his former team.
Yep. Graham Cano revenge game. That's true.
Yeah. There's just not much with this one. I mean, Baker Mayfield, is he the guy for the Carolina Panthers? I don't know. Christian McCaffrey had a good game, and they still couldn't pull it off. And
Christian McCaffrey had a very good game, which I hadn't seen this game. So I go back and look at the stats. It had shocked me how good McCaffrey's numbers were. And so I don't know. Numbers can be deceiving. Maybe it was a different narrative. Maybe it looked different than it was in the books. But yeah, for me, Saquon also has another decent game, 70 yards, I believe, a good amount of carries. The thing for me, the New York Giants, and we talked about the Jets, it was the first time since 2009 that the Jets, the Giants, the Yankees, and the Mets all won on the same day. It's a good time for New York sports right now. And we'll talk about the rest of the NFC East and where they line up. The Giants are going to have some steep competition. I still think pure roster-wise, they are the third best team in that division. Mm-hmm. However, I give them credit for winning. Brian, is it Daboll?
Yeah,
Daboll. He is the coach they've been needing for years now. Yeah. I think he's going to do a lot of what Robert Saleh is going to do across town, which is this the Giants' year? No. But it's a matter of moving in the right direction. The issue for me, and it's weird, I don't dislike Daniel Jones. There's a lot of stats being thrown out, which weird specific stats, which that's where you can get lost in numbers in a deceiving way, which paint him in not just a good light, but like a really, really great light. And you're stat picking if you're doing that, because I can make any athlete look good if you give me 20, 30 minutes on any of the FanCast, Baseball Savant type websites. I like Daniel Jones, but let me tell you this much. If you put an A-League quarterback in there, if you wait and if they get one through the draft or if they acquire one through trade or free agency, I think that's the difference for them. Rumor, I've already started hearing Lamar Jackson to the Giants. That's a long way away. But that's what this team needs, I believe, if they're going to make that next step. Yeah. But I'm happy for them. And we'll see where maybe Daniel Jones will make me put my foot in my mouth. But I just don't think he's the guy there. No disrespect.
I think also they're not using their receivers correctly. I mean, they paid Kenny Galladay huge money. He had 2 snaps last week.
Yeah.
He cleaned out his locker room after the Giants win, so he's not happy. Kadarius Toney, who is a menace on the field. I mean, he jukes everyone out. They barely give him the ball. I think they should start using their weapons way more receiver-wise.
Right.
They use Saquon Barkley really well this year, and if they keep that up, that's going to be good for their offense.
What's the missing link there, though? It's so fascinating, right? Like, they have these weapons which could be utilized. And so is that because of Daniel Jones? Is it just the offensive coordinator? I'd love to see. For me, they have the pieces that could work. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of utilization, which to me, I understand it's also the Chiefs. They are an embarrassment of riches. But they find a way to utilize. They get the most out of everyone on their reception corps. Yeah. They really do. The Giants, on the other hand, continue to seem to kind of muff their reception corps. And on the flip side, Carolina, I don't think there's a heck of a lot to say there. They're not much of it is expected of them this year. They've got some young talent, but kind of like a lot of teams in the NFC South, it's kind of time to just sit and bide your time and wait for the old man to finally hang up his helmet.
Definitely. And I think the Giants' defense is really good, and that's going to be their strong suit throughout the whole year.
Yes.
Even getting rid of James Bradbury, their corners look good.
Week 1, they stuffed Eric Henry. That's not an easy task to do.
Kayvon Thibodeau hasn't really played much. First-round pick. Mm-hmm. When he does, he'll be a menace as well. And then you said AFC South teams. Next, I had the Bucks beating the Saints. I'm sorry, dude.
That's okay. 20-10, the Bucks got the Saints, and for me, this is another game. Well, we talk about defense in the Miami game. The Saints defense held Tom Brady and the Buccaneers offense to task for 3/4 of that game. Mm-hmm. They really locked them down. It was a 3-3 game.
Brady was frustrated.
Brady was very frustrated. He had his signature game against the Saints tabloid. He throws the Google tablet down. And turnovers got the best of the Saints and Jameis Winston, and the Bucs started just having the ball, and eventually they broke down the Saints defense. To me, I have no problem with the way the Saints defense played. They're a defense first team. Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, they all contributed. The issue for the Saints, and I saw it week 1 and I see it again, their offensive line. And it's part because their first-round pick, Trevor Penning, is hurt with turf toe, has not been good. Winston has been sacked the second most times in the league and pressured even more. And Jameis Winston is not a good quarterback under pressure. He is a turnover-happy guy, especially when pressure starts to get to him. He makes those errant throws. So for me, the talent's there, the arm is there. It's that same Jameis Winston issue you continue to see, turnovers. And also for the Saints, their reception corps, it's none of the guys he worked with really last year. Besides Marquez Callaway and Juwan Johnson was kind of there. But they're 1 and they're 2, right? And they're 3. Thomas, Olave, and Landry, none of which worked with Winston last year. And you need to get that report on. You can tell the Winston-Olave reception. Olave still ends with 5 receptions, 80 yards. It's not quite not quite there yet. So it was a tough game for the Saints at home. You want to get the Bucs, absolutely, if you want to win that division. But the offense needs to find its groove. It struggled for 3/4 last week against Atlanta and then finally clicked against a bad defense. They got stuffed pretty badly by a good Buccaneer defense. They're going to Carolina. That's a bad defense. They need to get back on the horse. And on the flip side, Tampa Bay. I'm trying to get the read on them this year. even though they beat the Cowboys week 1, it wasn't an offensive juggernaut. And then same thing again. They were held really down well by a Saints defense and then finally got them when they just had exhausted the defense. Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore, they get into a big tiff. That was something pretty messy. And there's a lot of heat between those teams. But they have the weapons. Brady looks fine, but I'm waiting for them to have that big game where I go, okay, there's the Bucs defense. They're kind of weak. The defense is there. I wonder if the offense is the same this year.
I love their defense. Dak looked clueless on week 1.
Yep.
I think their defense as a unit is,
yeah.
I believe, the best in the league, honestly. I think they're going to go into Green Bay next week and beat the Packers, even without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's why I think they're going to be the top in the NFC, which is not that good this year. The NFC is not a good conference.
Yeah, it's much, there's not as clear of a tier as there is in the AFC. The AFC has the big dogs and there's a lot of weird, and it's good. That's what I love about football is every couple of years this cycle seems to kind of regenerate. The NFC's in that phase now where even as we're kind of weeding out Brady, he's still there, but that's the mistake I think a lot of people make. And it's the same reason I don't look at the New England Patriots of Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. They're completely separate teams to me. And yes, Brady, it was his point, right? I'm going to go leave Belichick and I'm going to go win by myself. He happened to pick a pretty darn good team to join because they have a lot of talent on offense. But more importantly, and it's the reason that Todd Bowles became head coach after Bruce Arians, they run the nastiest, meanest defense in the NFL. So, yeah, that's their calling card, and it has rung true for the first 2 weeks.
And I think Lenny Fournette, he looks like, LSU Lenny right now.
He does.
I think he's going to have a big game against the Packers, who had a rough time with the Bears running back.
Mm-hmm.
This defense is crazy to me for the Bucs. Did Jameis Winston play with 4 fractures?
He does. He has fractures in his spine. Alluding back to his pain, a whole lot of pain quote from the end of the week 1 game. Yeah, so it seems to be something he's going to be able to play through. To me, I'm not going to blame his interceptions on that.
Yeah, no.
I've seen enough Jameis Winston in my life to know he gets pressured and frazzled, especially when his team is down and he wants to just make the play happen, and it doesn't work out well for him necessarily. So I think it's probably hurt him some, but not enough to make it an excuse. The same way Herbert has been able to play through. Yeah. Jameis Winston can play through it.
I think if Kamara played and Marshawn Lattimore for that last quarter, I think it would have been a little bit of a different game.
Yeah.
Especially with Kamara. Ingram did not have a good game. I was expecting him to go off, but
yeah.
He did not.
I mean, Dennis Allen, he's done what Todd Bowles did for the Buccaneers. He was the Saints defensive coordinator who stepped into head coach. And their defense, week 1, Atlanta got the best of them. They seem to have rounded into form a bit better. Next week is a big week for them to go out and make a statement against the Carolina team, which they should handle pretty well. But he's not the play caller that Sean Payton was. And so they have new pieces on offense. They have new coordination on offense. The Saints offense, it's kind of got to find its rhythm. The pieces are there, kind of like how we talked about the Giants. It's about utilizing them and getting the most out of them. But yeah, it's for me, it's another year. Let's stop. Tom Brady's a big part of the Bucs. Don't get me wrong, but let's stop calling it just Tom Brady. The Buccaneers are a great team without him.
Yeah, they're great. They got studs everywhere. Next game was the Lions beating the Commanders, the Commies.
How about that?
36-27. Another big offensive game the Lions had in Week 1 against the Eagles. Mm-hmm. It was, I think, 38-35 or something. This week, 36-27. They get the win. Aiden Hutchinson gets 3 sacks.
Yeah.
Rookie defensive end who looks nasty. I like this Lions team. I like their offense. They got to figure it out on defense. With Aiden Hutchinson making an impact, maybe it will be that. But yeah, they got Jared Goff looks really good this year.
He does look good this year, and more importantly, this was the Amon-Ra St. Brown breakout game. He's been floating around the back half of last year. He was one of those sneaky fantasy picks for wide receiver, and he came in and has delivered the first 2 weeks. Between him and Hutchinson, the Lions have their young stars.
And Swift.
They have their guys who they can build around in years to come. I like the Lions a lot. I think this team can be competitive this year. I think they're just a tick below playoff level, but I think they are on that beautiful trend. Go get some wins. Go get your guys some experience. And look out for the Lions over the next couple of years. They're on a good trajectory.
Yeah, I think they can sneak in some division wins, against the Bears and the Vikings and the Packers. But yeah, I mean, they got T.J. Hawkinson too. Their offensive line has been much improved this year.
Yeah.
From drafting and signing free agents. So their offense looks like honestly one of the best in the league right now. If they scored over 30 points back-to-back weeks, that's huge.
Yeah.
And the Commanders are another team I still don't really know about. Is Wentz like the guy? He had some very, very good throws, and there were some throws at the end of the first half that were absolutely awful. He had a go route.
Such as the Carson Wentz story. It's never been a matter of talent with the guy. It's just sometimes the inconsistency is his devil. Yeah. He looks awful at times, and other times he looks really, really good. Yeah, the Commanders continue to frustrate me as a franchise because I had them where I have the Lions right now. A couple of years ago, I thought their young talent was good. I thought they had the pieces that were coming together, and they've just never quite found the quarterback. They've never quite found the offensive pieces. Chase Young, he continues to be injured.
Yes.
I mean, he's supposed to be their calling card, the leader of that defense. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the Commanders, for me, I have them as the worst team in that division. And I have them in the bottom tier of the NFC just because, while their high end is good, the low end's really bad. And for me, I don't think it's well-rounded enough of a team to compete.
Yeah. The defense who won them a playoff spot in 2020 is not the same defense now.
No.
Their corners do not look good. Their safeties do not look good. And then on the flip side, their receiving core and their offense looks promising.
Yeah.
Jahan Dotson is a beast from Penn State, rookie receiver. Curtis Samuel is having a breakout year this year. I think Wentz just likes going to Curtis Samuel a lot. And they still got Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas and Gibson and McKissick. So I'm interested to see what this offense has, but their defense has to shore it up. I mean, they couldn't win this game giving up 36 points to the Lions.
No, and at a certain point, you have to understand. And now we'll see. The Lions' offenses look good. So as we go through the weeks, we'll see how they can compete and stuff. But yeah, this was supposed to be another defense-first team.
Yes.
And it's odd the way it's worked out so far. But talent's still there on the defense. And Chase Young, as far as I'm aware, his injury is not supposed to be season-ending or even the majority of the season. I think it's about week 6 or 7. So maybe he comes back and it changes the tune there. But right now, for me, the Commanders, competitive. I respect them, but I don't think they've got the recipe to be where they want to be. I think they want to be a wild card team.
Yeah.
I think they expect that now. They've been on this field, and I don't think they're going to be there this year, unfortunately.
I always talk about it, too. I love their uniforms. I think they did really good.
Yeah, they are sharp. Really, really nice. And you know what I like about their uniforms? They were able to keep the colors and the feel of the organization without completely being still the Redskins. They're the Commanders. It is that, but they've got the color scheme down. Yeah, it's really sharp. I like where they're headed in terms of rebranding their organization.
The last 1 o'clock game from week 2 was the Jags beating the Colts. I think one of the most surprising games in the league last week. 24-0. Matt Ryan had 3 picks. Jonathan Taylor had like 50-some yards. Just absolutely surprising for the Colts to be 0-0.
We can talk about Jacksonville in a minute, but there is no team in the NFL that should be slamming the panic button more than the Indianapolis Colts.
Wentz's former team.
The Carson Wentz's former team. They've been on their merry-go-round. It's like the Colts are playing like a dating game. It's like pick your old, somewhat washed-up veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
It's been Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, and Matt Ryan. And for me, I thought Matt Ryan was supposed to be the best of the 3 they had gone through. He looks bad, and really, the entire team just looks lifeless.
Yes.
Offense has no confidence. because of that, the defense has no faith in themselves to even be in the game.
Yeah.
So they're getting walked on pretty easily. Yeah, not only are they 0-2, but they've lost 2 games against the Texans and the Jaguars.
Well, they tied.
They tied against, so okay,
Lost,
that against the Texans, not necessarily record-wise, but yeah, those are 2 games they should win.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. And they have not. It's a tough time. I think there's a lot of problems to diagnose.
There's a lot of problems to diagnose. And their defense, I mean, they got Stephon Gilmore in the offseason.
Yep.
They got a new guy. Well, he played for them. He just has a new name, Shaq Leonard. I don't know why he changed his name to Shaq Leonard. It was Darius Leonard for a while. Yeah, dude, the Colts are just... I think they still have a chance because of the division that they're in.
I agree.
But Matt Ryan has to turn it around. If he doesn't, you got to bench him. Is he just old? I think so. And he's just... He's also in a new offense. He was with the Falcons forever, so he's kind of used
for his whole career. And sometimes that can mask the aging process and a decline in skill sets because you know your guys, you know your schemes, and most importantly, the team knows how to not expose you. Yeah. He was brought over to Indianapolis, expect to be a guy.
Yeah.
And so far, I mean, that's the way this Colts team is set up, right? Jonathan Taylor is going to maul on the ground.
Yes.
And then when he mauls, teams are going to blitz, opens up the receiving core, and Matt Ryan was supposed to be able to take advantage of that. Has not looked that good this far. I wonder who their backup is, if that's an option at all.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. And their receiving core has to be better. They only got Michael Pittman. The rest of the guys are not too good.
No.
Bruce Campbell, I mean, Mo Alley Cox. I don't trust those guys. So they got to figure a lot of things out. They just can't keep giving it to Taylor and expect to win because everyone's going to try and contain Jonathan Taylor.
We talk about all these teams, and that's how you continue to win in the NFL week after week within a season, is once you find a thing that works on offense, you run it out there, defenses adapt, and then you pick up your second trick. And then when you've got a couple, it's like pitching in baseball. Like, you have a good fastball, and that's good, and then everything else kind of works off of that, right? Well, right now they have a good fastball, and they have no good breaking pitches. Yeah. And so teams are just sitting fastball, and it isn't getting them anywhere. We can talk about Jacksonville. That's a good win for them.
Yes.
This is a weak division. Anyone could win this division. I do believe. It's not out of the realm. I thought it was supposed to be the Colts up and away. Now that it doesn't look that way, any of these teams can win it. Jacksonville's trying to build. Trevor Lawrence is trying to establish himself. So they have some young talent. They're a team that I think a lot of people kind of forgot about last year because Trevor Lawrence was underwhelming and the hype just kind of faded. Let's see what he looks like year 2.
And I think using their 2 running backs, James Robinson and Travis Etienne, helps them a lot. James Robinson had a huge game last week. And Christian Kirk, everyone made fun of their deal that they made with Christian Kirk, making him one of the top receivers pay-wise in the league. He looked really good last week.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this Jacksonville defense because they shut out the Colts. 0 points for the Colts. That's impressive on its own. I'd like to see more because they have a young defense with, Josh Allen, defensive player. They got Trayvon Walker, first-round pick.
Yep.
He looks pretty good. So, like you said, the Jags could easily win this division. And they played pretty well against the Commies in week 1, too. So, we'll see. We'll definitely see. They got a lot. If they play the Colts again and beat up on them, I would look for the Jaguars to win this division.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then next, we're going into the 4:15, 4:25 games. 49ers beating the Seahawks after a huge Monday night win for the Seahawks and Geno Smith.
Yep.
49ers run them out of town, 27-7. Trey Lance got hurt early in the game. Jimmy G came in, looked like he didn't miss a beat at all.
No, and for me, it's a very quick ending to what I felt was one of the more interesting contracts and situations in the NFL. They give Jimmy G this long-term extension, not to break the bank, but a good amount of money, and then they commit to Trey Lance as their franchise quarterback. So you're going to pay a backup this much? I was never quite sure what the plan was. It wasn't this, obviously. Yeah. They look brilliant. Now sports are funny like that. And Jimmy G looks even brilliant because he has got incentives for snaps played and games won.
Yes.
And he's going to get a lot of snaps. And heck, he might get a lot of wins and make himself a good couple extra $1 million. So I'm happy for the guy. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, how many teams, I think there's just one, that have a privilege of saying their backup quarterback has been to the Super Bowl, he's been to a conference championship, and he's got several well-established years in the NFL. Yeah, the 49ers, for me, they looked good. They beat a team that they should. Seattle, as much as I was happy for them week 1 to get that win, they're not on the same level. Their offense got stuffed by the calling card, the Niners defense. That's how they roll.
That's how they roll.
They've got a good, fun offense with Debo, with Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Yeah, they've got the pieces. I mean, the Niners are funny to me because they kind of always get forgotten about. Yeah. And somehow they always end up in the playoffs or in the conference championship game year after year. So I'm happy for Jimmy G. Sucks for Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Going to have to come back next year and be better for that. But yeah, the Niners, how lucky are they to have what they had? I thought it was a stupid move. Now I look stupid because they are set up well, even with a devastating injury.
With Dak going out week 1, too, there was a lot of talk of maybe the Cowboys trading for Jimmy G.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen now.
No.
For 2 reasons. Jimmy G is a starter now, and Cooper Rush looking pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the 49ers going into this, they should have won this game. They did. Elijah Mitchell is out. Jeff Wilson stepped in. He had over 80 yards. He stepped in pretty well. I think they got to give it more to Debo. I don't think he's getting enough touches right now. So
I agree.
If they could do that, they're going to be a top in their division right now because the division looks decent at best, honestly. And with the Seahawks, I mean, Geno Smith.
No, I'm happy for Geno Smith because he had his moment in week 1. And Geno Smith's been around the league a long time. He's thrown a couple good haymakers. Yeah. So I like the guy. He's not the quarterback of the future. Seattle's not a team that's meant to go this year. So in a year where there's been a lot of really interesting looking teams, I give Seattle credit for looking like how they should so far. They're 1-1. They'll grab a couple wins, especially at home. But yeah, I think them on the road is going to be, if you're looking for good bets, pay for Seattle to cover at home, and I take the other team on the road because I think that'll be a big trend for them this year.
Definitely. And the next game was the Rams beating the Falcons 31-27. It was a blowout for most of the game. Falcons making a comeback late again.
Yep.
Staying with the team that they're facing just like they did with the Saints in week 1. I'm more surprised about the Falcons than the Rams in this game, honestly.
I agree with you.
Rams don't look good, honestly. I mean, week 1, they did play the Bills, but they got obliterated after winning the Super Bowl. So, but the Falcons, man, they're very, very interesting. They're not using Kyle Pitts at all. Drake London had a good game.
Yeah.
I think they can get a couple wins here and there. The Rams, I think the Rams have to figure a lot of things out.
This is a fun, interesting game because it was a matchup in which you're expecting reality kind of set in for both teams after weird week 1s for both of them. Atlanta looked like they had a win that was promised, and New Orleans swept in and took that away from them. And on the flip side, the Rams got beat badly against the team that looks like the Super Bowl favorite. So say what you will about that, but this game looks how it should early. The Rams come out, they start kind of running it, Cooper Kupp, man, he's just on a treadmill. He's not the reason the Rams look like they're having some sort of issues. But Matt Stafford's looked a little bit stiff. His accuracy seems to be a little bit off to start the year. And most importantly, their defense. I mean, I like some of the pieces Atlanta has. I like Drake London. I like Cordell Patterson. And I even like Marcus Mariota. But they're not that good. They should never make it a 4-point game against you when you've had a 16-point lead or so. It's funny, my brother's an Atlanta Falcons fan, and we're watching this game together on Sunday, and he said, I feel more comfortable now than I do. This is when they had gotten the ball after a fumble, and they're charging to try and score. He said, I feel more comfortable now than I do than if we had the lead. Because the second we have the lead, my confidence disappears. And that's the Atlanta Falcons story. When you have a lead, you're doomed to lose it. He said the best thing they can do is chew the clock and then score as time expires. And that would actually be the recipe for winning a game. So, just some funny insight into Atlanta. But yeah, we'll talk about another team. I'm sure it's probably your next game. Big Super Bowl hangover this year.
Yes.
Both teams that were in the Super Bowl looking like they have some trouble kind of getting back into form to start this year. The Rams have all the talent in the world. All the talent. So it could click easily. I'm not too worried about them. But they better be careful because they play in a division where we just talked about the Niners. There are some competitive teams. They could find themselves in a division race when I don't think they should be expecting that at all, based on how talented they are.
Yeah, and with the Rams, their defense looks, with the absence of Von Miller there, does not look like the defense of last year at all. Aaron Donald needs that help, and Von Miller's not there to do it. Jalen Ramsey does not look like the top corner anymore.
No.
He did have the pick at the end of the game. They said, I'm him, but he's not him. He got burned by Stephon Diggs week 1, and then the Falcons receivers had a big game. The Rams are interesting. I mean, I think the week 1 loss was just because of the Super Bowl banner getting thrown down. They were kind of just celebrating that more. They got to utilize Allen Robinson more. He is the replacement for Odell.
And they started to this week.
They did.
That was one of their positives.
Yes, and they got to keep doing that. Their running backs are a little weird to me. Going into the year, we expected Cam Akers to get the load of the carries. It's been Darrell Henderson most of the time. I think Cam Akers is much, much better than Darrell Henderson. So, man, they're lucky to get out of that with the win, honestly.
They very much were, and I was lucky because they were my pick for the Pigskin Pick'em League. And I was feeling good about myself after a day of upsets, and I was mulling, everyone, you think, I'll just pick against the Jets. Well, so I there was a part of my day I was going to go with the Browns, and then there was a part of my day I was going to go with the Ravens, because I thought, and man, oh man, I went with the Rams, and I thought I ended it. Plus, if they had lost, I think some jerk picked the Jaguars to win. He was the only one. He might have won the whole league on week 2 if the Rams had lost, because a lot of people, me and 100 plus others, were in there. So, yeah, luckily they pulled off the win.
Yeah, and they have a tough division, just like last year, so it's going to be a battle every week for them to win that division again. Next game, you said it, Cowboys beating the Bengals 20-17.
Yeah.
An outstanding game for the Cowboys. I was so surprised. I was just going into that game just going to watch it, see some, highlights and see the Cowboys lose, but they pulled it off. Cooper Rush did good enough to get the win. He's not Tom Brady. Everyone's saying that he looks like Tom Brady and that they should pay him and that he should start over Dak. That game that Cooper Rush had would be an average game for Dak. Dak would have thrown more touchdowns, more pass yards than Cooper Rush. The Bengals look really bad. Their offensive line looks terrible. Now I think the Cowboys' defensive line is one of the best in the league.
Yes.
Micah Parsons is the best player in the NFL. I don't care what you say. He is a game. I mean, he changed that whole game from the first snap that the Bengals had.
Yeah. He plays the way that I alluded to with T.J. Watt earlier. He's a defensive guy that can have the impact of a star quarterback or wide receiver. Usually you watch an NFL game, the offense is where a team has its momentum, and a defense's job is to stop the momentum. The way the Cowboys are designed, their defense carries the momentum, led by Micah Parsons. Yeah, he absolutely brutalized the Bengals line. And it's amazing, the Cowboys continue to find, year after year, they are able to have a breakout defensive star. Now, the key is sustaining it, right? Because Leighton Vander Esch came up and he lit the world on fire, and then he went down a tier.
He looks better this year, but not like...
They have a series of guys who have all had career, all-time level seasons, and then they don't sustain. If they could ever get them all to play, not even to their top level, but to the level you would expect them to, I mean, they'd have an ironclad defense. Yeah. Micah Parsons looks like he has sustained where he was at. Huge part of the team for them.
Even better than last year, I think. I actually have it written down. He had 8 pressures against the Bengals, mostly against Lyle Collins, who was a former Cowboy, an all-pro. 2 sacks, and now that makes him have 4 on the season. He's on pace for 34 sacks this year.
Wow.
Which,
wow.
I don't know if he's going to do it, but
right.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I think he should have had more than 2 sacks. He was very close to it.
Yeah.
I think this defense, this is the best Cowboys defense I've ever seen in my entire life, being a fan. Trayvon Diggs, who everyone makes fun of him.
Yeah.
He gets the interceptions, but he gives up a lot of yards. He was shut down against Jamar Chase.
He was.
Jamar Chase only had 5 catches for 54 yards. There was only 1 catch against Trayvon Diggs when he was lined up against him. That is really good to see. Also, with the Cowboys offensively, 2 guys that on their offensive line that has had a lot of struggles in the past, Terrence Steele and Tyler Biadasz, center and right tackle, they stepped up huge. And Kellen Moore figured it out. You got to run the ball with Zeke and Pollard.
Yes.
Use them both because your wide receivers, while I don't think CeeDee Lamb's a wide receiver 1 right now.
No.
I think he definitely needs help, which I was pissed about Amari Cooper going to the Browns. Noah Brown's not going to be your good number 2 receiver. They got to use Zeke and Pollard. If Zeke's not getting it done, put Pollard back in there.
Tony Pollard is one of the least known key players to his team in the NFL. He has been trending up and up and up. And there's a lot of people that, start Pollard over Zeke. That's the wrong. You use the both of them because it makes Zeke better. It's a wonderful domino effect for the Cowboys offense. And luckily they started to use that this week and they were all the better for it. But yeah, Tony Pollard for a couple of years now has continued to improve year after year. Never amazing, but I tell you, if they gave him the reps, the numbers might be amazing.
Oh, yeah. He had a bad week 1, too, so they fed Zeke, who had a pretty good game. Zeke had a bad week 2, so they fed Pollard. It works out like that. I think they lost their game plan in the second half. They should have absolutely killed the Bengals, but Bengals made it a game. Money Maher wins it on the last second.
Yeah.
If I'm a Bengals fan, though, I would be worried. Joe Burrow said yesterday that don't be frustrated right now. We're going to figure it out, but I don't know, man.
So I talked about the Super Bowl hangover. And yes, the Rams have it. They've gotten it, but they're not 0-2, and they've got all the talent in the world. They have a very specific type of sports hangover, which you see a lot. It's the young team which overachieves, and then it kind of throws off their mojo in terms of where their trajectory should go over a couple of years. Now, there's no problem with the fact that the Bengals clicked. I think they would always go to the Super Bowl last year if you gave them the choice.
Oh, yeah.
And they played well enough to be there. They were excellent, especially in the back half of the season. But what happens then when you have a young quarterback and young receivers that go and they overachieve and they get to the Super Bowl and that adrenaline is at its all-time high? When you come back to the regular season, you lose your footing. And it's hard to set yourself down and chill yourself out and make yourself even keel enough to compete in the regular season the way you need to. I think that's a huge reason why the Bengals are 0-2 right now.
Yeah.
They went out there, they were on the top of the world, and now all of a sudden, here they are. And you kind of think to yourself as a young person, you don't realize the league just flips over. Another year, got to go play 17 more games now. 20-some if you want to get back to that level of adrenaline. Yeah. So it's going to be it's a learning process for young players. It's going to be about them learning that as they go through this year. The only issue for Bengals fans, they are good enough that they should be a playoff team. You don't want to have it be such a long learning curve that you miss the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think their defense is as good as last year.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Apple is not a cornerback that you should be starting. He got mossed by Noah Brown. You can't let that happen.
Eli Apple has a reputation of being mossed. He's one of, and no disrespect to Eli Apple, the worst players in the NFL. I've had the pleasure of watching this quarterback for my team, and I can tell you, he is as uncompetitive as it gets, especially when he goes up, and no offense to Noah Brown either, if you put him up against anyone in the upper tier of receivers in the NFL, it's basically like they're not covered.
Yeah, that was... It was surprising to me that the Bengals looked that bad. I mean, even against the Steelers too. So
yeah.
Last 4:00 game was an awful one. Broncos beating the Texans. 16-9. Now, the Broncos just look lost. I don't know. Dude, Russell Wilson is a funny guy. He is funny.
Russell Wilson's a very funny guy.
He was yelling at his teammates. He was just corny. But they pulled it off against the Texans, barely 16-9. Now the Texans they're 1-1 now. I do believe deep down in my heart that the Texans will win the division.
Wow.
I trust Davis Mills a lot. He was the best rookie quarterback from the previous year. He was better than Mac Jones. He was better than Trevor Lawrence stat-wise. And people forget about Brandon Cooks, man. Brandon Cooks he's still lighting it up. He's still a top receiver, in my opinion. They're going to use Dameon Pierce more, who looks like a stud running back. I like the Texans team. They should have pulled that off, but they're facing a lot of talent with the Broncos. But, yeah, man, I don't know. The Broncos, I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't know if it's Russ, because he's not. It seems like he's just staying more in the pocket this year than escaping the pocket and trying to make plays with his feet. But, yeah, man, they have too much talent to be 1-1 and barely beat the Texans.
There is an awful disconnect somewhere within the Broncos organization and their coaching staff and their players, whoever it may be. Week 1, this is not going to take any sports show you turned on told you that you should have let Russell Wilson try and get you that first down instead of kicking a 75,000-yard field goal. You have to take that opportunity. So that's on the coaching. Yes. But even then, against a good Seattle defense, an average Seattle defense at home, they scored well.
Yes.
Not crazily, but better than 9 points.
Yeah.
So this week for me was a week I thought, okay, Denver's got to go get out there. They got to go handle business, get a win, and start to get things rolling. A new quarterback is always tough to settle in. So I wasn't going to hit the full panic button on them yet. That is a brutal game for them. It really, really is. The Texans, it's funny. They've played 2 games against teams which should be above and beyond better than them. Yeah. And they've been right there. They tied and lost one by a field goal. So I appreciate. It's funny how different 2 records can feel. The Texans don't have a win yet, and I feel better about them than I do the Broncos this year.
Too, honestly,
it's funny.
I don't know. I guess the coach doesn't really. I mean, it's his first year as a head coach, so I guess he doesn't really know how to manage the clock. But I mean, I could manage the clock better than him. Russ is. I mean, Broncos country. Let's ride. He is not riding right now. I picked him in both of my fantasy leagues too. Was not a good idea. He was without Jerry Jeudy for most of that game.
Yeah.
Which hurt him. Excuse me, but. They just have too many weapons with Javonte Williams and Courtland Sutton to only score 16 points.
Yeah, I'm struggling. It's one thing if they only put up 14 or 20, but 9 points? That's the level I can't get with you there. That's a tough at home against a Texans defense which by no means is good enough to make you look that bad. So. Yeah, they're a team for me. It's funny. We talked all about how amazing and competitive that division, the AFC West, right, is going to be. And the Chiefs look their part, and the Chargers look their part. But man, oh man, it might not be as competitive as we thought.
Yeah.
The talent, I don't know, man.
And they play the 49ers next week, so it's going to be a tough matchup. If
they
can win it, I'll have more hope, but we'll see. Sunday night game. Packers beating the Bears like usual. Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears 27-10.
Yeah.
I thought Justin Fields scored at the end of that, at the end of the fourth quarter, which would have made it a little bit of a game. But I think the Packers should have won that game.
And they did.
First game at Lambeau of the season, facing the Bears. Bears had a big one in week 1 against the Niners. But,
right.
Justin Fields looked really, really bad in that game.
He did
wise.
He looked, just pure talent wise, and that's the issue for me with the Browns. I like Justin Fields, and I was very excited about them week 1 because I thought, okay, this is the Bears have been one of the laughing stocks of the league for years now, and I despise them. I don't despise them. I despise the situation they're put in because they're a historic franchise that during my fanhood have been awful. And there's been no other team that's gotten so many frickin' primetime games and lost all of them like the Bears have over the past several years. So I was happy for them. I thought they were going to lose this game 10 out of 10 times. To go into Lambeau against Aaron Rodgers, who is coming off of a week 1 loss, I think I knew he was going to light it up. So to me, I'm not shocked about any of that part of it. But it's what you said. For me, Justin Fields, he looked bad. Now, young kids can look bad randomly, but that's an issue for me. I wanted him to at least go out and play a competitive football game and keep the momentum, not necessarily running, but at least don't let it all evaporate.
Yeah.
The Bears are in a sticky spot. If they go out next week and take a loss, all that week 1 hype will be down the toilet.
And they could have passed the ball more. I mean, Kirk Cousins had a huge game with Justin Jefferson in week 1 against the Packers defense. Darnell Mooney, who should be their number 1 receiver, had 1 catch for -4 yards.
Wow.
You got to give him the ball more.
Yeah.
They did use David Montgomery really well, I think. I think him and Herbert could be a pretty good 1-2 punch in their backfield. But I think on the flip side, I think the Packers found their recipe throughout the whole season is to use who I think are the 2 best duo running backs in the league. Dylan and Aaron Jones both had big games because his receiving core is not as it was last year. His best receivers, Sammy Watkins or Allen Lazard. You could debate on that one. But,
Sure.
I think they just got to keep running the ball. When they see a passing opportunity or play action opportunity, they got to take it. But I think the strength for the Packers is run the ball.
It's going to be a fun year to watch the Packers because they are very much not the recipe that you expect Aaron Rodgers' offense to be. They're a run-first offense, and I joke because it is not true, but the most important Aaron on that team is not Rodgers. It's Jones.
Yeah.
Now, that's half of a joke, but it is so very true. No one thinks it when they think of the Packers, except maybe Packers fans who know their team well, but the national perception of them is to be a passing-first team. They're a run-first offense with one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. But they are, and so you play with the cards you're given. I like Lazard. I like Sammy Watkins. They're both good number 2s who are being forced to play as 1 and 2, and maybe one of them will take that step as the season progresses. But yeah, the Packers are going to be a fun team to watch. I very much look forward to seeing them match up. I want to see them get rolling. I want to see them start to accrue wins and play at the level that you expect them to play. And then I want to see them run into some big-name teams and see how that shakes out. Because for me, they could be there with the big dogs, or they could end up sort of in that second tier.
Yeah, and they will next week against the Buccaneers. So
that's a huge you said game. That. Yeah, that's a tough game for them.
That's a huge game.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Bears have any... They'll get some wins this year, but they won't be a contender, I think, in the long run.
Yeah.
Moving on to Monday night, there was 2 games.
Monday doubleheader. Why was that?
I don't know. They didn't do it week 1. I
don't think they're doing it any other week. It's just, but...
I didn't like it. Dan Orlovsky should not be in the press booth.
Dan Orlovsky proved that very early on in his press booth debut.
He's not. He's like Jason Witten from a few years ago, or Booger McFarland.
Yeah, for me, I don't like the doubleheader prime time. When it's prime time, the nation's tuning in to get 1 game. Yeah. And
I don't want to see plays like I'm looking at like a Call of Duty match here.
Yeah,
they're double screening. I don't like that.
I agree with you.
Bills beating the Titans 41-7, an absolute blowout. Stephon Diggs had 3 touchdowns. He looks like the best receiver in the league right now, honestly.
I've been waiting all show to talk about the Buffalo Bills, man. What a machine they look like this year. I love it. Josh Allen has been in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes for years now, and he has been robbed. The Bills in general have been in the shadow of the Chiefs for years now. And don't get me wrong, the Chiefs look good, but man, oh man, the Buffalo Bills, it's all there this year. They have the offensive pieces to make it work. Josh Allen looks like the best quarterback in the NFL. Definitely. And Stephon Diggs looks like the best wide receiver in the NFL. With that combination, you win a lot of football games.
And they're not even getting really good production from the running backs either. They're winning it from passing it, running it with Josh Allen, and their defense. Their defense has been a huge surprise to me, honestly. 7 points against the Titans, who didn't look good, but then 10 points against the Rams in week 1. So back-to-back weeks where their defense looked top tier. They get a lot of turnovers. They pressure the quarterback getting Von Miller from the Rams was huge. He disrupted that Rams game so much and that Titans game. They're scary. I think they're everyone's favorite team to at least make it to the Super Bowl, if not win.
They have run out the best offense and defense both games, both weeks.
And they even have Gabriel Davis, who is another huge, big wide receiver for them. But Josh Allen, he found Kumaro a lot. Big game for him. They got Jamison Crowder, who was pretty good for them. They are filled with studs. And, I mean, the Titans had no chance. From the first snap, the Titans just had no chance whatsoever. Bills are going to run away with the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run for 17-0, honestly. I
would not either. The talent on this team is unbelievable. And not only that, but it's a team that's been with its same staff and same players for the most part. They are in that beautiful point where you've run out your roster for years, you got your groove down, and then you supplement here or there. How about Von Miller for supplement, right? He is as good as it gets when it comes to adding a guy in free agency. We all knew their offense could go, but if their defense is going to play like that too, they're a team that they'll beat you on both sides of the ball. And as the season goes on, as football does happen, one side will give a little bit than the other. Well, let me tell you, when the defense goes bad, the offense will pick them up and vice versa. When Josh Allen maybe has his bad week, the defense will cover him. They look like a machine. I could look at the rest of their games right now. I think I'd pick them as the favorite in every single one.
Oh, definitely. And I'm really excited to see them face the Dolphins twice this year.
Yeah.
Those are going to be great.
Those are going to be electric matchups. Awesome. Yes.
The Titans, man. What's going on with them? I mean, I think they had a little bit of promise with the division that they're in. They still have Derrick Henry. Their receivers, I mean, they lost A.J. Brown, which is huge. Yeah. But they got Robert Woods. They got Traylon Burks, who looks like a pretty good rookie. Is it the quarterback? Is it the defense? I'm not too sure right now. I think they got to give Henry the ball more. More teams look like they know the game plan and are stopping him more. So, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see, honestly, Ryan Tannehill be the starter for weeks to come.
The dream is over for the Titans. They're waking up from that wonderful dream they've been in for the past 2 years now. Derrick Henry is so good that for 2 years they gave him the ball and everyone knew it was happening and it just continued to work. But at a certain point, A, because of what I'm sure is going on in Derrick Henry's body, and B, the way the league will inevitably figure out every scheme that you throw out there offensively, teams have caught up with them. And Derrick Henry, I don't know if he's just lacking a little bit physically, or if teams have figured it out, probably a little bit of both. And by the same token, and you can look at Philadelphia, who we'll talk about in a minute, and how important it is. Seems like A.J. Brown, you never quite realized how important he was to that team now that he's gone either, because their passing game is pitiful. Really, really bad. And I also think that's Ryan Tannehill. Like, all these things with the Titans that were kind of working on borrowed time are all running out at the same time now. And for that reason, we could see them, I hate to say this, but you could really see them fall off a cliff this year in terms of wins. They could be below 500 and I wouldn't be shocked.
That's why I think the Texans have a good chance to win the division, because the Titans are not doing it for me this year.
Yeah.
Not a good Monday night game either. Why did they have that game? I mean, going into the year, I guess it would have been a good game, but I mean, after seeing the Bills week one.
Yeah, it's tough because the Titans were AFC big dogs. They were, I mean, like, they were the one seed in the AFC. Yeah. Like, it feels weird. Even when you look back, you don't quite remember them that way, but they were. But reality's catching up with them now a little bit, and on the flip side, they ran into the freight train that is the Bills. Let's just keep watching week after week and enjoying them because they look like a juggernaut.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch them next week. Eagles beating the Vikings the last game of the week. They beat them 24-7. Eagles look good. Going into the year, I had my fantasy draft. We do it with pen and paper. We do it for about 3 hours, and I'm around all Eagles fans. And I told them, I said, I'm nervous this year. I'm expecting a wild card spot as a Cowboys fan. I think the Eagles are going to run away with the division. Like the Bills, with their easy schedule, I think they have a chance to go undefeated.
Yeah.
Honestly, from how good they looked after a huge Vikings Week 1 win, they just shut down Justin Jefferson. They could not stop the run with Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts and Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. They used all of them. And it looked like they were playing prevent defense all game, and just Jalen Hurts had it everywhere.
The Vikings were playing prevent.
Yeah, the Vikings were playing.
Yeah, I was struggling to understand, and
the whole game.
I'm going to talk. The Eagles played a great game, and I will say more about that. But the Vikings, I was very confused.
They made no adjustments
as to why they never adjusted to what was happening. Because from the first 2 drives, Eagles were just running them over. And they kept running the same formations out there, which seemed to be completely obvious that Philadelphia had figured out. They were running them down easily. Hurts was mobile. Sanders was mobile.
They never put a spy on Jalen Hurts. They looked like they were playing cover 2.
It was a very strange week for the Vikings.
The middle of the field was wide open.
They're another team that gets on primetime a lot. And this is big in part of Kirk Cousins and how awful he is on primetime. But they get a lot of primetime games, and they almost always look miserable on them.
Yes.
So they're another team. I have just a bad... I never quite like them because I always feel like they get way more hype than should be expected. Now, Justin Jefferson, he is electric. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. There's no debating that. He got absolutely stuffed. Shut down. So, Philadelphia, that is the best I've seen the Eagles play on both sides of the ball in a couple of years. The Philly juices were rolling. Bryce Harper was in the house. James Harden was in the house. Bradley Cooper. Like there's a lot of excitement and energy. The Eagles crowd was feeling good. They looked good. So it was a great game for the Philadelphia Eagles. The thing for me that I think is the biggest game changer for them, and we just talked about him, is A.J. Brown. Now, he didn't even have the most electric game. I went into my fantasy matchup up by 4. I've got Adam Thielen. He's got Justin Jefferson. And I thought, I'm cooked. And I won.
Yeah.
Because in garbage time, Thielen got 1 or 2 catches at the end.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, not Justin Jefferson. I misspoke. I have Adam Thielen. He had A.J. Brown.
Okay.
And A.J. Brown, I thought I'm cooked. Had a fine game, still ended with 60, 70 yards, but the Eagles played their cards perfectly. Brown went nuts week 1, and then Devonta Smith, who didn't have a singular reception week 1, he becomes the favorite target week 2. Vikings did not know how to play it at all.
Oh, yeah. And Dallas Goedert had a huge game. Quez Watkins had that 50-yard touchdown to get them on the board again. But I do have some questions for about the Eagles team. I'm not 100% bought into their defense yet.
I agree.
I think they struggle at linebacker. I think they do have good corners. They got James Bradbury from the Giants and CJ or Garner Johnson from the Saints.
Yep.
But man, I mean, with the schedule, it was the Eagles play the Commanders, Jaguars, and Cardinals the next 3 weeks.
Wow.
The Bucs play the Packers, Chiefs, and the Falcons the next 3 weeks. So those are tough games for the Bucs, and I think those 2 teams are the top in the NFC.
Yeah.
The Eagles benefit from an easy schedule. I saw someone say that easy schedules and strength of schedules are it's not like a fan narrative. Like, people kind of just made up that narrative, which I don't believe is true. I think looking at those 3 weeks, the Eagles have an easier schedule than the Bucs. But I'm not 100% bought into their defense, and I'm not 100% bought on Jalen Hurts yet. I still think he had a huge game. He was running with a lot of strength, but I think teams are going to figure it out at some point, possibly, on how to stop Jalen Hurts in the run offense yet.
I've watched enough football in my life to know that the good mobile quarterback is not a scheme you run all year and be successful. When it works, when you break out with it, and when you have it going, it looks unstoppable. Jalen Hurts he had the best game the Eagles quarterback has had probably since Michael Vick.
Yes.
He looked unstoppable, but teams or Nick Foles, teams figure that out. Smart defenses, clever defensive coordinators, the Buccaneers, when they match up, if they do this year. I would hope so, because the Saints have the Eagles, so I would think they're probably playing that division then.
Probably.
That'll be fun to watch, because that's a defense that's going to put the task to stopping Jalen Hurts. The key for them is going to their other weapons. Now, they have A.J. Brown. Now, Devonta Smith is developing as a wide receiver. Sanders has established himself as one of the quality running backs in the league. So they have to be able to figure out that when Hurts' mobile ability has gone away, can he just play as a passing quarterback? Looked good so far against the Vikings, but yeah, it's that. And for me, the other caveat with the Eagles is their defense. Now, they got run over pretty badly by the Lions, even though they won that game.
That was surprising.
And then Jefferson got absolutely locked up. So when you take him out, he is the Vikings offense. Mm-hmm. So they shut him down. And they were stopping Dalvin Cook. So they played a really good game. So it'll be interesting to see when they match up again with another good offense, if it looks a little weaker. But yeah, man, exciting year for Philadelphia. They seem to have found a really good, they found it halfway through last year, that identity as a run-heavy offense who can have some deep threats, and they continue to develop that over years.
And it's technically Jalen Hurts' second year as a starter.
For sure.
He started 4 games when he was a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
once Wentz was out. So, yeah, he looked really good. I think as a Vikings fan, I wouldn't be too upset right now. Kirk Cousins was on prime time.
Yeah.
You should expect
he
that
doesn't win those games.
I think
he's home at 1 o'clock this week. They're going to be electric.
Yeah, I think their defense. I think Jefferson will figure it out. He just ran some bad routes at times. I still don't think. I don't know why they don't retire Randy Moss's jersey. Why is Irv Smith wearing that jersey and dropping passes?
Yeah, that
I would be mad.
A lot of dropped passes for the Vikings receivers too. So, and then that's, I mean, the Eagles still would have won the game above and beyond, but just it really was a strange. The whole team has like the Kirk Cousins primetime funk going on.
Yeah.
So very, very odd.
Vikings defense did look good because the Eagles got up quick and they only held them to 24 points, which is very promising. Daniel Hunter is huge coming back. And Cam Dantzler surprised me a lot. He was the cornerback for the Vikings. He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the secondary looked awful because they were playing prevent defense.
Yeah. The whole game. It was so odd.
We'll see if that changes next week. Real quick, I just want to go to week 3 games and see who you got for each of them.
And this is great because you're going to help me do my Pigskin pick and pick here. I took the Saints and the Rams already. Okay. So they're out. But we'll still discuss those games.
So tonight we got Steelers versus Browns. I'm going with the Steelers, honestly. I think they're going to bounce back.
This should be a competitive game.
Yeah.
These are two teams, I think, on a little bit even levels. Yeah, this is a game the Steelers need to win, though, if they want to continue to have aspirations this year.
Yeah, and I think if Brownie the Elf is on the field for the Browns, they will lose. So that's why I'm going with the Steelers. And then we got Bills versus Dolphins.
Oh, how prime time is that? That is awesome.
1 o'clock game. I hope that's on TV around here. I'm going with the Bills, though. Even though I love the Dolphins, I'm going with the Bills.
You have to. It'll be fun to see the Bills defense and the Miami offense. That's the side. You know the Bills are going to put up points.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a matter of them being able to keep up. Well, they shocked us and did it with the Ravens. Most importantly, if the Miami just proved it to you, that's a game that, unless it's really, really out of hand, you should watch every single snap of that game, because with how quick fire the Miami offense is, they can get themselves back in a 7, 14, 20-point deficit really quickly.
Yeah, and I think if the Bills throw punches and the Dolphins punch back, it's gonna come down to the wire to like a last-second field goal or something. Bengals versus Jets. I'm going with Bengals. I think they're going to bounce back from the 0-2 start. I think their offensive line is going to look better than...
Might be the biggest must-win of the week.
Yes,
in terms of where a team is. And
they're in New York, too, so that's kind of tough, but I still think the Bengals are going to pull it
This
out.
could be a fun game. Also, on the flip side, if the Bengals hangover continues to loom, the Jets could find themselves with a 500 record for the first time in, 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a fun game, too. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, though, in terms of betting, because it's there's a lot. I would believe both teams winning if you pitched it to me right now.
Because the Jets could easily... Joe Flacco could have another easy game.
Yeah.
If Eli Apple is up against Garrett Wilson, Garrett Wilson's going to have another game because Eli Apple's trash. So, yeah, I'm going with the Bengals.
Yeah.
Raiders versus Titans. I got the Raiders in this one. I think another team is going to bounce back from the 0-2 start.
This is the underwhelming AFC Bowl, right? Like these are two teams that expectations have not been met. They're both 0-2. So I right there with where the Bengals need to win. This is another must-win game for both of these teams. I probably take the Raiders as well, just because I think that if they're smart enough to go just use Devontae Adams, they should just run over the Tennessee defense.
Yes, definitely. I think they're going to kind of stop Derrick Henry too in the run game. So yeah, I'm going with the Raiders. Saints versus Panthers. I think this is kind of an easy one. I'm going with the Saints.
Yeah, the Saints got to go win this game if they want to be competitive this year. The Atlanta and Carolina are the division games you're going to have to win because, Tampa Bay is going to be difficult. And really, it should be a two-team fight in that division. So you got to go win that. Carolina's home, but you are above and beyond better than them. Most importantly, I want to see, I have all the faith in the world in the Saints defense being able to lock up the Carolina offense. I like Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to be competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays another good game, but the Saints offense needs to come and take advantage of a pretty mediocre Carolina defense.
I think all the Saints have to do is just stop McCaffrey because Baker is not going to beat them with this.
No.
But yeah, I got the Saints. That would be a big bounce back win. Is Marshawn Lattimore out? Did he get suspended too, or was it just Mike Evans?
They have not handed out the rest of the suspensions yet. Good. So there should be lingering suspensions, but even at this point, it might not come into play next week and stuff.
I think Lattimore should be suspended. That was all Mike
Evans. If Evans got one game, no one else should be suspended.
Yeah.
If Evans had 3 or 4, okay, then yeah, you can give everyone else 1 or 2. But if Evans only got 1, just fine him and move on.
Ravens versus Patriots. This might be a good lock for you. Ravens. I'm going with Ravens.
So I've looked at the games. I have 2 games I'm between. Spoiler alert. This is one of them. I like the Ravens a lot in this game. I think for me, playing the Patriots, and not only that, but they just lost that devastating game for them in which their offense played really well. They're going to want to go out and run the table against New England.
Yes, and they're not playing the Dolphins offense this week. They're playing the Patriots offense, which is a big, big difference from the Dolphins. So, yeah, I'm going with Ravens. Lions versus Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to bounce back.
This is a fun game, man, because these are 2 teams with different expectations in different directions right now. Yeah, I would love to see the Lions get this win.
I would love that too. I think it's going to be a shootout just like the
Dolphins. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if St. Brown and Jefferson are both north of 150 yards in this game.
I think the Vikings will pull it out, though, because, like you said, Kirk Cousins is not on prime time.
Yeah.
And they're
at home at 1 o'clock, his favorite time.
Yeah, so I'm going with the Vikings. Eagles versus Commanders. I think this is another possible lock for you. It's the Eagles easily winning this one. They are at Washington, but I don't know. I don't trust this Washington offense at all.
I don't trust the Washington offense, and also their defense doesn't play the way they should. So for me, this is the other lock I had. I like the Eagles a lot, and for me, I don't think there's an easier matchup you're going to find for them interdivision than this game. I mean, if it was home, sure, but even then, I think this is a game the Eagles need to win and keep going 3-0, keep building that momentum.
And a thing that they struggled in the past was not beating division rivals.
Yes.
They had trouble with division rivals in the past.
Yeah.
So if they could beat them this year, they're gonna be running away with that division. Chiefs, Colts. I think this might be another lock. I'm going with
So I had this as my 3rd lock. And the only reason I didn't is because the Colts have been so bad. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it, clicked all of a sudden. And I like the Chiefs a lot. They've been so bad that it's not even according to a trend that they could break out. I still take the Chiefs in this 9 out of 10 times if I pick it. But, something about it. The Colts are home. Everyone's writing them off as dead. They just got shut out. They could come out with a fire and put out a good game. I still think the Chiefs win it, if you're asking me.
Yeah, a lot of the away teams I have winning this week, which is kind of surprising. Texans versus Bears. Another away team. I'm going with Texans, honestly. I think Texans, I like their defense. Jonathan Bernard is a low-key good pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Stingley looks pretty good, rookie cornerback.
Yeah.
They got a lot of pieces. I think the Texans, it's going to be one of those field goal games. And I think the Texans are going to get their first
Another field goal bowl.
Yeah. Who do you got? Texans, Bears?
I like the Texans a lot, and my reason for that is that I hate the Bears.
Jags versus Chargers.
Oh, Chargers should run with this one too. Chargers are home. This is another reason. My only reason I wasn't locked on this is I got to see Herbert play a game post-injury.
Yeah.
Just because if he goes out, and I pray to God he doesn't, but if he goes out and looks awful, that changes my belief in them. So I would pick this game. I really would, especially since they're home, and I like that home field in the pick. But I have to see. I still put money on the Chargers with this, but Herbert's health. Hopefully he goes out, he looks great, and it's out of my mind.
If the Jags play good this game, I think they're going to be bigger favorites for that division.
I agree.
Rams versus Cardinals. This is a good one.
Great game.
I'm going with the Cardinals at home, though. I think they're going to beat the Super Bowl champions.
This is a game where we're going to find out. It's funny how our brains work this way, but any week 2 versus week 3 record in the NFL, it feels a lot more permanent. You go 0-2, whatever, it sucks, but if you get that first win, okay. You go 0-3, you're in a hole.
Yeah.
And vice versa, if the Rams start 1-2 as opposed to 2-1, that's a whole different direction for them. Yeah, I like this game a lot. I think it's going to be what we expected these kind of matchups to be versus these teams with their young talent and the strong offenses. But yeah, it will be interesting to see. The Rams defense is the key to this game. If they look bad again, they'll lose this. But they have an opportunity to come in and stop a good-looking Cardinals offense.
Yeah, I'm going Cardinals. I don't think Kyler Murray's going to get punched in the face this week either, so good for him. Packers versus Bucks, another awesome game.
Awesome.
I'm going with the Bucks, though.
Is this 4 o'clock still? That's a 4 o'clock game?
Yes, it is.
Wow. A lot of great games this week. That's funny. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers, and I think it's because as good as the Packers played, it comes down, it's going to be Aaron Jones and Dillon versus the Bucs defense, and I think the Bucs defense wins that matchup.
Even without Godwin and Mike Evans, I still think they're going to beat the Packers. A little rough game to watch here. Falcons versus Seahawks. I'm going with the Falcons, though.
Yeah, I like the Falcons, too. I think they've played well enough, and I'd like to see them get a win.
Mm-hmm. They are in Seattle, which is always tough.
Yeah, sure.
I still think the magic that Mariota has, they're going to pull it off.
Yeah, I like that. That's a fun game. It might be a close game, too.
Yeah, it will be a close game. 49ers versus Broncos. I'm going with the Niners.
Is that the 8 o'clock game?
That's the 8 o'clock.
How stupid. Oh my. They should go week by week and flex things to 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because no way in hell do I want to watch the Broncos stink it up again. I like the Niners in this game, man. I really do.
Yeah, honestly, I feel sorry for Trey Lance. I hope he recovers well, but I think they are a better team with Jimmy G than Trey Lance. Jimmy G has more experience.
Yes.
He is a better passer instead of a runner than Trey Lance is. So, I'm going with 49ers. Jimmy G is just going to get more and more money. And then the Monday night game, which is a very good game. Cowboys versus Giants.
That's a fun game.
Should I go the Skip Bayless route and not pick the Cowboys? I'm going with the Giants.
Who's home?
Giants.
So, this is going to be a big game for the Giants because they want to be good this year. The hype is there. They're part of that weird undefeated group, and they're like the misfit kid in the undefeated teams group. Yeah. Like, you look at all of them, and I'd say, okay. The Giants are there? Yeah. On the flip side, it's going to come down to the same way we talked about the Buccaneers defense and versus Jones and Dillon in the Packers and Bucs game. It's going to be the Giants defense, the Cowboys defense, Micah Parsons versus Saquon. Mm-hmm. Because we've talked about the Giants. They have not figured out how to get the best of their wide receivers. This is a game they're going to have to, because I think the Cowboys know damn well that if you stop Saquon, you win this game. So that's where the matchup's going to be.
It's going to go either way. It's probably going to come down to a field goal at the end. I don't know. I just think Cooper Rush will not play as well as he did last week. Against a better defense. But these 2 games that the Cowboys have are huge because apparently Dak will be back week 5 against the Rams. So They have the Giants and the Commanders. If they could win one of those games, win two of those games, they still have a chance for the playoffs if they don't.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah. You float 500. That's kind of how you have to be if you have a short-term injury in this league. Yeah, I'm going to take the Cowboys. And I think my reason with that is I think the Giants are going to have a come-down-to-earth game. I think they need it, too, because if they just keep winning, they'll never learn a lesson. And I think if you guys come out and stuff Saquon, it might finally force them to go and try and figure out how to get the most out of their receiving core.
Yeah, and I think I heard Michael Gallup might come back, so that would be a huge
part of that game.
And Jalen Tolbert, their third-round pick receiver, might come back as well. But that's all the football I got. I'm excited for Week 3.
I am too.
The last stretch of the MLB baseball season.
Yeah, man, and the fun part we're at with baseball now is, barring the NL wild card, it's all shook out. The teams are locked in for who's going to be into the playoffs. The seeding is still up for grabs. So we'll do AL first because the 6 teams are locked in, and most importantly, teams are kind of trending in directions, and God knows momentum is the biggest factor in the MLB playoffs. Yeah. I don't care what your season was. I care about how you look the last 2 weeks. The Washington Nationals very famously won a World Series after starting below 500 in the first half because they were rolling when they went into that wild card. So the Astros, they're the 1 seed. They're rolling. They've got the 1 seed all but locked up. They're a win or 2 away from 100 wins. Mm-hmm. And their most 2 important players, Justin Verlander, came back from injury. He pitched 5 perfect innings, no-hit innings. Yeah. He looks great. And Yordan Alvarez, who had been struggling, his last 15 games, he's slashing 429, 467, a 1.5 OPS. He's got 5 homers. So when he gets going, then that offense starts to go. I can't say a bad thing about Houston. They are such a powerhouse team. And to me, they're more of a powerhouse than Los Angeles is, and I'll explain that to you in a little bit, but I just think they're the team to beat in Major League Baseball right now. They've got the veterans, they've got the young kids, they've got the energy. Houston is going to be a tough team to beat in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I mean, especially if Altuve, because he's been hitting all year.
Yep.
Bregman and Jeremy Pena, who could be a Rookie of the Year candidate, honestly.
Yeah.
For the AL, but yeah, man, dude, the Astros just do it every year. They just go in there, just crush these teams, make the Rays fight in the parking lot. It's good as a baseball fan to see. I hope they're not cheating. I don't think they're cheating. But yeah, and the Astros are, I do think, a bigger powerhouse than the Dodgers because of the division that they're in.
Yeah.
In the AL, they'll have easier teams to face.
I agree with you. They are the kind, they just make everyone else frustrated. Yeah. They frustrate Yankees fans. Mariners can't touch them no matter how much of a breakout team the Mariners are. Every team that goes up against them in the American League has got by them except for one team, which I'll touch on. But yeah, for me, it's just they're an absolute factory. They've been there. They'll continue to be there. They're the team for me that I think is the best playoff formula too, because not only Verlander is going to be your game 1 starter and Framber is going to be your game 2. Mm-hmm. But you've got Javier or Kitty, Hunter Brown, their rookie breakout guy, along with good relievers already. So if you're an Astros fan, you can have a lot of fun conversations about how you set up your pitching in the playoffs.
Yeah, man, they don't do anything wrong.
They don't.
The only weakness may be their bullpen, but I mean everything else is base running is good, hitting is good, power is good. I mean, they have Kyle Tucker batting at the end of the lineup.
It's the deepest lineup in baseball. It is. There is no break in it. Yeah. Maldonado is their defense first catcher who they put out. And they've got Christian Vasquez, who it'll be interesting to see. I know the staff loves Maldonado. But I wouldn't be surprised if you pop Vasquez in there in games. Or maybe start Vasquez and then bring in Maldonado late. Yeah. So, they've got a recipe to win. Number 2 seed in the American League are New York Yankees, and it feels like they've kind of righted the ship. They're not quite out of the woods yet for me, but God, are they much better than where they were a month ago, even 2 weeks ago. The most important thing for the Yanks is that they're coming back into good health. Harrison Bader, Luis Severino, Anthony Rizzo, Scott Efros, all these people coming back from injury and immediately performing. Rizzo came back game 1 from his back injury, bomb and a hit. Bader comes back in his first 2 games, singles, doubles, RBIs. Severino comes back in his first start last night, throwing free and easy, looking smooth. Ross hopefully comes back and looks good. I mean, the only injuries the Yankees have left now at this point are ones that would, I think, be playoff-only injuries. Yeah. Benintendi and Carpenter. LeMahieu is an interesting conversation to have there. But before we get into all that, let's keep the Yankees conversation focused because I know we can go down rabbit holes with it. The main reason the Yankees are here, and the first thing you talk about when you talk about the New York Yankees, is the single best offensive season that's ever been had. There is no other argument against it. Aaron Judge is at 60 home runs. He is 2 away from becoming the American League record, the clean steroid-free home run record, and why not? He's got the Triple Crown for it too. I could talk for 2 hours just about this, but what to you, besides the obvious numbers, is the most impressive part of Aaron Judge's historic offensive season?
I think his eye at the plate. He does not chase at all. I think he's improved his plate discipline a lot through the offseason, and just his swing. And I think he watches a lot of film on pitchers too, especially in the dugout.
Yeah.
He's just a brilliant mind. When you watch him hit, he looks like he's in control. He's dropped the strikeouts. They are a little bit up, but they have been less than they were
big time,
big years, like a lot of years ago. So it's so fun to watch him play, man. It's every game you just expect a home run, and the fact that he has the best batting average in the league is insane. Last night he had 2 doubles, and we were all kind of upset about it.
Yeah,
the double's a double, but man, we wanted to see him.
It's funny.
What he could do.
That's to me the most impressive part. Well, there's 2 things I want to talk about with Aaron Judge. Number 1 is you can't find a bad part of the year. 2 weeks before the All-Star break, he went quiet a little bit. It was his only slump. His first half is amazing, disgusting. Yeah. His second half is even better. His contact numbers, his walk numbers, his defense. You can't find... The only major offensive category he does not lead the American League in is stolen bases. And I think he's got 15, so it's still a big part of his game plan. He is someone... Not only just in terms of where his team is and how much they've needed him and how much pressure that puts on you, but I don't think anyone would blame Judge if the average had went from 300 to 280 in the last leg of this home run chase. Yeah. Because the pressure gets to guys. Mm-hmm. Very famously, when you're sitting on that, if it's a career milestone homer, 600, 700, if it's a season homer, 40, 50, you see guys, I mean, they get obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. Aaron Judge has not given a single shit. No. I don't know how else to say this, but I don't think he cares about hitting homers. He just does it because he's so goddamn good. That's what happens. But last night, what does everyone in the ballpark want to see? First pitch, what's he do? He hits double down the line. Because what Aaron Judge does is he just hits the baseball well. Homers come because he's so good, not because he's trying to hit them. Yeah. That's what I think is the most impressive part to me. He is not strayed from his game plan all year long.
Yeah. And I think the Yankees are playing for him. Like the last 2 nights, with that Stanton home grand slam to win the game, that was to make Judge's 60th even better.
Yes.
And then to get him at the plate, even though he didn't hit 61 last night, Glaber started the inning batting 3rd.
Yeah.
And they got to Judge with 1 out by the end of the inning. So
there's nothing more dangerous than a team that plays for a cause. For one of their guys who they love. You don't think a big part of the reason the Atlanta Braves won the World Series was because their star, Ronald Acuna, was injured. And they were rallying around him. And he was having an MVP year when he got hurt. He would have won the MVP. So they went and they won it, A, because of themselves, but B, because they were playing for a guy who they know had been the reason they were there in the first half. Mm-hmm. Teams play for guys. The Yankees are playing for Judge. He sets the tone. I love him in the leadoff spot. Not only because mathematics-wise it gets him the more at-bats, but also because I think it just sets the tone for this team. The reason they had that first inning comeback was that ninth inning comeback is Judge hits a homer, and with how deep the lineup, it was so shallow for a while with the injuries. Between these guys coming back, and now the second half I want to talk about, Gleyber Torres saving his season, Josh Donaldson, for the first time all year looking like Josh Donaldson, and Oswaldo Cabrera, who the defense has been there every position. Left field it's become the only place he really fits, but he's got 3 homers his last 9 games. His eye has gotten a lot better. He was getting beat on breaking pitches really badly, as all rookies do. Yeah. He looks a lot more confident at the plate. The lineup's deep now. You got your 7, 8, 9 is Bader, IKF, Trevino. The Yankees lineup, it looks restored to the almighty lineup it was at the start of the year.
Yeah, and if Benintendi can't come back, I am fine with Oswaldo playing left field. Yeah, man, he's been impressive to me. He played first base against the Brewers for some reason, too. First start at first base in his whole career. He could do it, though. He's
been a spark plug for them, his energy. Even when he came up, he was first playing when they were in the pits. Yeah. But his energy remained, his defense remained. Yeah, the Yankees lineup, it's rolling now. Judge is rolling. Rizzo, Gleyber, IKF. Yeah. For me, DJ LeMahieu is the only guy that could come back. And they put out a quote yesterday that even when he comes back, he's not going to be 100%. If you know one thing about the Boone regimen, they lie their asses off about injuries. Yeah. For them to say he's not going to be 100%, I love DJ LeMahieu. I love what he means to this team. He's the only guy right now that I would put in leadoff over Judge, because when he's right, that's an awesome recipe. If DJ's not 100%, I'm sorry, but I don't need him. I love DJ, but with Gleyber's resurgence, IKF and Don, there's not a spot for him. Yeah. And Stanton, yes, it's been a tough go since he's been back. He's had the big homer. He's finding the walks a bit more. And playoff Giancarlo Stanton has been one of the only good parts of the Yankees' playoff runs the past couple of years. If DJ's not DJ, I don't put him out there. Because for me, I'm sorry, it's not worth taking one of the other guys out of the lineup.
And Stanton's been getting it going too.
He has.
Grand Slam, so his swings look a little better. The only thing with the Yankees right now, I think their starting pitching has been good. Their bullpen looks a little shaky right now.
Yes.
So I think they got to shore that up before the playoffs.
That's the caveat of the Yankees season right now. That bullpen, which was lights out, and it's went through so many different incarnations, and it's probably my bias as a fan that I watched them with such a close eye. There was the Mike King, Clay Holmes era, and then there was the Clay Holmes is bad and out, and Mike King is out, and we were... Loizaga started to put it together. Trevino was the win of the Montes trade. Ron Marinaccio, Clark Schmidt. After the young guys were neglected, they finally called them up. Everyone's kind of figuring out what their role is right now. You have Clay Holmes, Wandy Peralta, Jonathan Loizaga, Clark Schmidt, Domingo Germán, Ron Marinaccio, Lou Trevino, Scott Effross. That's a lot of guys who could be really, really good for you. The best thing the Yankees can do is not die on the Clay Holmes in the closer role. He's been hitting back. I don't know why he's throwing his slider a lot more and getting beat on it. And even if the command of the sinker isn't there, if you're a Clay Holmes, you better be getting beat on your sinker, not on your slider. So he's got to go back to that, but they need to go closer by committee the rest of the season. Yes. As much as I hate it, if it's a team with heavy lefties, put Peralta out there. If it's a team with strong righties, put Loizaga out there.
It's a team that can't hit junk, put Effross out there.
I agree completely. You need to... they have the pieces. It's a tough task of Aaron Boone. It's going to be what wins or loses them games in the playoffs, is how that bullpen is utilized. Mm-hmm. But luckily for them, Cole, he's going to be your game one. You're in bed with that. What it will be is what it's going to be. Yeah. It's going to be high end, or he's going to give up a lot of bombs. Savvy game 2, or Nestor game 2. Either way, I'm happy with game 2 or 3. Montes, it never worked from go. No. I feel bad for the guy, but you have him for next year. At this point, push him down there. Yeah. I would start Jameson Tyone with Domingo Germán ready to go behind him in Game 4.
Yeah,
and to me, that's a pretty darn good Game 4.
Domingo has been looking really good ever since his first start back from injury. So Yeah, man. I'm excited to see how what the game 2 starter will be, because I would be happy with Severino. I'd be happy with Cortez.
Yeah.
I like Nestor.
It's probably another matchup thing, to be honest with you. If we go against the Astros, I probably like Nestor because I think against Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez, he could be kind of a weapon. But on the flip side, if we're going against Toronto, I would probably go Severino because I think his power righty stuff beats their lineup a little bit better. But yeah, it's a fun time to be a Yankees fan, and most importantly, just a fun time to watch Aaron Judge, man. I hope he just continues.
Yeah, dude. I think, well, you're going to see him soon.
Going to the game tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. You're going to see 62, I think.
Man, what a treat it would be.
What if you catch it? What if you catch the ball?
Could you imagine? I'm going to negotiate better than those kids did with the 60th. Oh, I'm walking away with a good chunk of change. Yes. I'm meeting Cole. I'm meeting Nestor. Yeah. I'm probably going to live in Nestor's house for the next couple of months.
And just tell Judge to sign back with the Yankees. Please.
Most importantly.
That's most important.
After the New York Yankees, for me, it's a team you and I kind of didn't believe in last time we talked. Mm-hmm. It's the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah, they have won that division. They're 6 games up, really 7 with the tiebreaker. They just knocked the Twins out, and then in the series after, knocked the White Sox out. Here's my favorite thing about Cleveland, and it sent me down a fun rabbit hole this morning. Their average age of player is 26 years old. By far the youngest in baseball. And I'm going to quick read you the average age of all the other playoff teams. It's not even near. All the other teams are old. The Mets are 31. I think that's mostly just Scherzer.
Yeah.
Kidding. Yanks are 30. They're the second oldest team in baseball. Dodgers 29, Braves 29, Brewers 29, Astros 29, Phillies, Rays, Jays all 28. So you see, it's teams, they have veterans and young players. That's usually the playoff recipe. Seattle's 27. They're young too. Yeah. But Cleveland is 26 years old of age. All this young talent, Stephen Kwan, Oscar Gonzalez, Andres Jimenez, Cal Quantrill, Tristan McKenzie, James Karinchak. They've got such young talent. They're going to be in the playoffs now. They're going to be a home team in the wild card series. I really, really like the Cleveland Guardians. I think for them, it's a good year for them. Go into the playoffs, get some playoff experience, and then next year spend some freaking money. It doesn't need to be a backbreaking signing, but if they could do what the Mets did and sign the Mark Cannas or Starling Martes at the offseason and get themselves a couple veterans to match up with this young talent alongside, obviously, Jose Ramirez. They could be really good. But, yeah, man, I'll say this. I didn't really believe in Cleveland, and now they've really made me pay attention. Don't be surprised if they win that wild card series. They've got a good 1, 2, 3 that lines up for it.
Yeah, and Tristan McKenzie has been awesome this year.
Yeah.
He looks like a stud. But yeah, I wrote them off. I said I thought the Twins a few weeks ago were going to take that division. I was so wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think their Achilles heel will be their age.
Yes.
They don't have that experience in the playoffs.
I agree.
Jose Ramirez does, but yeah, they're going to be a sneaky team in the playoffs, especially at home with that 1, 2, 3 starting pitching wise. So
yeah.
And if they could just hit, if Andres Jimenez could keep it going, if Stephen Kwan could get clutch hits and make big plays in the outfield, they have a good shot to go a little bit further than we expected.
The thing I like about them in the playoffs is that they're not home run reliant, and you see a lot of home run reliant teams sometimes get stuffed in the playoffs because premier pitching comes in and you don't get the bomb. Well, they don't rely on it. They have walks, they have speed, they have contact. So I do like them. The thing I like about the American League Wild Card Series is you're going to see 3 teams in it, which are young teams which have really not been there before. Yeah. It's them, Seattle, and Toronto. Speaking of, let's talk about Toronto. Them and Tampa Bay matched up for a 5-game set a week ago. They took 3 out of 5. They're lining up to play Tampa Bay again in a 4-game set starting today, throughout this weekend. They're 2 games up on Tampa Bay. They've been trending. Toronto's been trending in the right direction. Their offense has been not to the level anyone's expected all year, but it's been very, very good. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Bo Bichette or Vlad or Springer or Teoscar this year, you'd think, okay, yeah, that's good for them. That's career average numbers for them. The thing for me with Toronto is that I just think their pitching falls off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
I love Manoah and I love Gossman, and I think they're a good one too. But if they go into a series against Cleveland and it's Manoah versus McKenzie, and McKenzie wins that battle, they're screwed.
Yeah.
They're a team that needs to win when their 1 and 2 are on the mound, because if they don't, I like their offense a lot, but I just think it doesn't matter because they're Jose Barrios or Ross Stripling. That's a tough guy to hope to win a playoff game against, especially when you find yourself up against some of the premier offenses in the league.
Yeah, and their bullpen is not really getting it done either. They had a tough loss last night against the Phillies.
Adam Simber has been got. Jordan Romano, he's been good all year, but he's been got a couple of times too. You can think of moments the Yankees got him. Yeah. The Orioles walked them off last Sunday. So, yeah, I like Toronto. The thing that is sneaky about them is the potential is still kind of there for the offense, so they could make that jump at the very, very end. But, yeah, the big thing that you need to watch with the Toronto Blue Jays is they need to win when Manoah and Gossman are on the mound.
Yes.
Absolutely have to.
Yes, and Bichette needs to play shortstop well because he hasn't a lot. They need to get rid
He's been lighting the world on fire offensively.
Offensively, yes, but they gotta cut down the errors, and they'll be good. They'll be. I wouldn't want to face them in the playoffs, but
yeah, I wouldn't either. It'll be a fun wild card series, and then the last two teams in the American League wild card is going to be Tampa Bay and it's going to be Seattle. The seeding is what matters there. We've talked about Seattle, how important it is for them to be home field. It's funny, I looked at these rosters. They're actually very similar, Seattle and Tampa Bay. They are pitching-heavy teams, both in their rotation and their bullpen. Seattle's rotation beats Tampa's. Tampa's bullpen beats Seattle. Both very, very good. The offense, both, is top-heavy and then falls off a cliff. The Rays have Yandy Diaz and Wander Franco, and Randy Arozarena, and Seattle has Julio, Mitch Haniger, Ty France, but then after both of those top tiers, it gets bad fast. And so that's tough. We've seen bad offenses be carried by pitching. Look at the Washington Nationals and how they won theirs. But even then, Anthony Rendon won MVP and Juan Soto was in one of maybe 3 primes he's going to have in his career. So they don't have those level bats. So I like these teams, but I think the story for both of them, McClanahan just came out of a game again, and Glasnow is still in AAA. Tampa Bay, if those guys come in, we've said this, that could change their direction, but I like Seattle a lot. I like Gilbert, Ray, and obviously the gem of the trade deadline, Luis Castillo, a lot. So for me, I think I would probably put the wild card teams. I would go wild card series teams because Cleveland will be there. I would probably put Cleveland 1, Toronto 2, Seattle 3, Tampa Bay 4.
Yeah, me too. I don't like the Rays, honestly. I just think they don't have much offense.
And they've been trending down. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Mm-hmm. And when that rotation gets thinned out, I mean, if you don't have McClanahan or Glasnow in a playoff series, you're going to be going with Corey Kluber as your game 1 starter. That's not their plan. That's not how they're going to win.
Yeah. They don't do it, but they should have traded for better pieces on offense. They only got David Peralta and Jose Siri, which are not like game breakers.
No.
So, yeah, I like the Mariners way better than the Rays. Andres Munoz on the Mariners has been good too this year.
Yeah.
So he gives a little bit of hope to the bullpen for the Mariners. But yeah, man, the Rays are falling. They're falling apart. They've fallen. There was a report that Arozarena and Yandy were fighting outside of the stadium after the Astros clinched that series. So I would love to see that.
And schedule-wise, the Rays have a tough go. They go up against the Astros again. They have another series against them. They get the Guardians again too, along with this 4-game set against Toronto. So they could slide down. The biggest thing to watch in the American League left is the Yankees need to lock up the second seed. Their magic number for the AL East is 8. And it will jump significantly, not only because the two teams are playing each other when they play Toronto, but they need just one of the 3 games against the Blue Jays to take the season series, which without the tiebreaker game 163 this year, gives them another game in the standings. So they've got to go in Toronto. They take 2 out of 3 there. I think they would probably, it might line up that they would clinch it at that point. Yeah. Probably in those games. But if not, that's a huge thing for them just to get one. But yeah, the American League, it's funny. I think the Yankees and Astros, big name rotations, big name lineups. Seattle and Tampa Bay, big name pitching. Toronto, big name lineup. Cleveland's a team I keep thinking about now, especially if they continue to be hot. We talk about momentum. They are sort of a miniature roster. They're like the Yankees and the Astros rosters down a peg. Yeah. They have the rotation. They have the high-end bullpen arms, and they have the quality lineup. Yeah. They're not so dependent on one or the other like the rest of the teams in the wild card series are. If you could draw up the wild card matchups just for pure entertainment, who would you want to see play each other?
So, the Yankees and Astros are out.
Yes.
Okay. So, I would want the Rays against the Blue Jays. Would that one happen, right? Would that happen?
Anything is possible within this. Cleveland's going to be home, but against who else? It's Cleveland will be against the bottom one and the middle two, and right now they're all within 2 games of each other, so anything is possible there.
Like the Rays, Blue Jays, Mariners, Guardians. Yeah, that's what I would go.
I like that. I want Cleveland, and I want Cleveland against Toronto.
That would be awesome.
Because I think that's big name lineup versus contact lineup. I think you're going to have Gossman versus probably Bieber and McKenzie versus Manoah. I think those are awesome matchups. And also, I want Seattle versus Tampa Bay at home because I want Seattle to get that home playoff games. Oh, yeah. And I also just think that leads to them. I think that's going to be awesome pitching out the wazoo. So I think those would be some fun series.
I think also that the Guardians have a benefit that another team from their division is not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So these teams have not seen them as much as, like the Mariners have seen that.
Excellent point. Excellent
or
point.
The Yankees have seen the Rays and Blue Jays. So I think that gives them a little bit of a benefit there, yeah.
And not only that, but how long ago, the last time the Yankees ran into the Guardians was the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. That's a long time ago. That's a long, yes, a lot has changed since then. So it'll be fun to see how that kind of shakes out. The National League, a lot more in flux. The National League is the side of baseball to watch these last 4 series.
Kind of like the AFC in football.
It very much is, yeah. It's not so clear, who's going to end up in what position. And for a lot of teams, huge implications. The one team that there's no implications left for is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They already have 103 wins, and they have 4 series to go. They're so stupidly above and beyond everyone. They have a 325-plus run differential, which is 100 more than the Yankees and the Astros at 220-some. Yeah. They're so good. There's only one argument I can come up with as to why I don't like the Dodgers, and it's because I don't know if they're going to be able to be their energy level-wise where other teams are going to be in the National League. The number 2 seed, the Mets or the Braves, which we'll talk about, are going to be a team that just won that seed probably within the last week of the season. Yeah. The wild card teams are all going to be teams that are fighting for their life and had just come out of a series. The Dodgers will have not played a meaningful baseball game probably in a month, a month and a half. Yeah, so momentum, we talk about that. They're so goddamn good, I don't think it matters. I'm grasping for straws in terms of what could be, what their weakness is. Yeah. But it's the only interesting thing with the Dodgers is that they're not going to have those juices flowing the way that other teams will have been. Really, every other team in the National League is going to be coming and playing hot. Yeah. Really, really hot.
Yeah, and the Dodgers will be playing chill.
Yeah.
They always do seem chill, and they're always winning these games. So, I don't know. They will have a lot of time not playing baseball, like meaningful baseball, like you said, but I just don't think there's anyone stopping them, honestly. That offense is too good.
Yeah.
How do you make Joey Gallo good again? I don't know. They got the recipe.
They do have the recipe, man. I mean, the lineup's so deep. The rotation is weaker. We talk about that, right? Yeah. It's Clayton Kershaw, Tyler Anderson, Andrew Heaney.
Tony Gonsolin?
Tony Gonsolin's injury is a big part of their a big part of if he's able to come back or not. And that's still kind of up in the air. And I think they're hopeful he'd be back. It's just, does he get his start before the playoffs? Tough to plug him into a playoff game when he hasn't pitched in a couple of months.
Tough.
That's a tough look for a team, and you're hoping for a lot there that you don't know if you'd get it. So I like the Dodgers. I think they're so very good. You're grasping at straws. The best, most interesting thing to watch left in baseball is the number 2 seed in the National League. It's the Mets and the Braves.
Yes.
The Mets are up a game. For me, it's the Mets to lose, and that's for 2 reasons. A, they're tied in the loss column. So the Braves are going to have to win tonight in the other game that the other night the Mets aren't playing in order to tie the record up.
Okay.
Second, the Mets go A's, Marlins, Braves, Nats, while the Braves go Phillies, Nats, Mets, and Marlins. They both get the Marlins, they both get the Nats. But right now, the Braves are doing a 4-game set against Philly, and the Mets are going to have a 3-game set against the A's this weekend. This is where the Mets can put it away. Or if they don't, because the Mets have had a stretch to put it away for a while. They got swept by the Cubs. Yeah. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates.
Yeah.
It seems to be that they keep botching these opportunities. The last thing the Mets better have it put away by the time they go to Truist Park, the second to last week of the series, because the second to last series of the season. Because if they go in 1 or tied against the Braves, then I think the Braves get them.
Yeah, man. Honestly, from the start of the season, how the Braves have turned everything around with getting rid of Freeman and signing Matt Olson and calling up Harris and Grissom and Spencer Strider, it's been they look like, I would say, potentially better than the team of last year.
Yeah,
the Braves.
I think they are a better team than last year, 100%.
But yeah, you're right. It's the Mets to lose. The Mets they've had control. They should have had control like the Astros had in their division throughout the whole year, but they let it slip. Injuries didn't help that cause, but they got DeGrom, Scherzer, their whole pitching staff as a whole has to step it up and win these games. They have to beat the A's in this series, and the Braves should probably lose a game or 2 against the Phillies.
Yeah, I think in a 4-game set, Philly's going to get 1. Heck, they might get 2. Yeah. The Mets have to sweep Oakland and put it away. They'll be tied in the loss column, or if the Braves lose tonight, they'll be up a game in them in the loss column. You separate yourself, and then if you're the Mets, you got to watch out for that 3-game set, sure, but you'd feel a heck of a lot more comfortable in it, needing the Braves to say sweep for them to take it from you. You know what I mean? The big thing also, it's obvious, right? Any team that gets a bye is better off than a team that doesn't.
Yeah.
But the Mets specifically, the way that they're constructed, if they want a World Series run, it's a heck of a lot easier when they have that bye. Because DeGrom and Scherzer are well rested. And when DeGrom and Scherzer are well rested and lined up game 1, 2, and 5, as opposed to if the Mets are put in a wild card series and it goes 3 games and you burn DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett, and then you got to go to a wild card series, you would probably line up Taijuan Walker, and then depending on, I should have looked and seen if there's 2 days off or not, but either you're getting Scherzer and DeGrom 2 and 3, and that's their only starts in the series, and then you got to go back to Bassett and probably Walker. The Mets need to win the division, and if they then go into the championships, the division series with their 2 golden gooses lined up, game 1 and game 2, they're set. I think they roll. But if not, the Braves can stand to play in a wild card series. Yeah. They've got the deeper rotation in just in terms of Max Fried, Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, Mike Soroka. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. The Mets need to win this division. I really think they do.
Yeah, they definitely do.
More than the Braves do.
Even with DeGrom and Scherzer, you would want Edwin Diaz rested too.
Yes.
If they do play that wild card round, he's probably going to pitch a good amount of those games to save them. So, man, they definitely need to win the division, but they are the Mets. We've seen this before. They like to choke and perform when it really matters. So I honestly expect the Braves to win the division. No, they're just a powerhouse, man.
I agree with you.
Right.
I think the Braves win it. Yeah. I think they go. I think they win tonight and get closer in the loss column. And then I think when that series comes up, you don't think these teams know what they're doing. They better have their pitching lined up. That will be the first playoff series of the year.
Yeah.
Is that I think it's next weekend in Atlanta.
Okay.
After that, you have the St. Louis Cardinals. They're 7 games up in the NL Central. They have won that division. They are a team
Good for them.
that has all the stories. They have the awesome veterans, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. Albert Pujols is in the second most historic home run chase this season. They have the veterans in Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright, who broke the record. It's the one record in baseball I think will never be broken again. With how much bullpen and turnover and rest management there is in baseball, they started 325 and counting games together as a battery. It's amazing. We'll never see that again.
The most starting times when they both started in the playoffs too.
If not, they'll probably get it this year if they get another series or two. The Cardinals have scored 1 run in their last 4 games. And in their last 15 games, Goldie's slashing 222, 322, 385. And Arenado's slashing 218, 295, 345. They've got the division. So they're fine. It's not a panic button at all. But it is an insight into how this team works.
Yeah.
I like their lineup. I like Tommy Edman and Tyler O'Neill and Lars Nootbaar. They're deep. They are. But they go with Goldschmidt and Arenado. Yeah. And this, I didn't point this out to say they're in trouble. I pointed this out to say that's how you get them. Mm-hmm. If you can figure out those 2 guys, they're the Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. The team goes with them. If you shut them down, you beat them pretty easily. And vice versa. If they get you, they're going to beat you. So they're a team that relies more than any other team in baseball, I think, on their top 2 bats because they're so... Goldie's the NL MVP. Yeah. And Arenado's not short behind him. They're so good that it kind of works that way. But it'll be interesting to see. They got to put it together.
Yeah, and they're pitching Wainwright, Michaelis. Who's pretty much after that?
I think probably the way their season goes, they probably go Michaelis game 1, Wainwright game 2, Montgomery game 3. And then after that, Jack Flaherty, I mean, he's high-end, but he's coming back from injury and he hasn't quite looked sharp yet. And Quintana, I think he's a guy you bump to the pen. And he could be crafty out there as a lefty in the bullpen for you.
I think they're going to have a lot of low-scoring games. I think if they get into the bullpen with Ryan Helsley, that's how you say it?
Yes.
With a lead, they're going to win most of these games because he's, I think, one of the most underrated.
I think behind Edwin Diaz, he's the second best closer in baseball.
Definitely. So if you're playing a game and Arenado's not getting it done and Goldschmidt's not getting it done, these young guys that they got, they have to step it up.
Yeah.
And they have been pretty much.
And it's exactly that, young guys in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough thing to bank on. Mm-hmm. Some people, the bright lights, it really gets to them. Yeah, they have a good roster. I think it's the Dodgers, Mets, and Braves are tier 1 of the National League, and then it's them, and I think they're kind of in their own second tier, and then the last tier is the other wild card teams I'm going to talk to you about here.
Definitely. But I love the Cardinals. We've talked about this like years ago, that the Cardinals are just a well-run organization.
They are.
They just know what they're doing every year.
They are the model franchise of Major League Baseball. Yeah. They're not as big time and sexy as the Dodgers, and they don't have the history of the Yankees, but they have the second best history in baseball. And for as long as I've been a baseball fan, the Cardinals have run out competitive teams. This is an awesome stat I heard in the career of Yadier Molina. The Cardinals have played 38 games in which they were eliminated from the playoffs.
Wow.
Yadier Molina has only played 38 regular season games where they were eliminated from the playoffs.
That's crazy.
That's how consistent. Now, they haven't made the playoff every single... That doesn't mean they made it, but maybe it means they just got eliminated with only 3 or 4 games to go. I would bet you that's how it is. Yeah. When they miss the playoffs, it's because they just missed it in the last week of the season a couple of times.
And that goes to show you why a defensive-minded catcher who is great at their craft is huge.
It is.
For all these years.
Yeah. It's been the saving grace of the Yankee season. Jose Trevino has been the best pickup the Yankees made this offseason, above and beyond.
Easily. He's the man. I love Trevino. Way better than Scary.
So the way it's going to shake out, the Dodgers will have the bye. and then the Mets or Braves will get the other one. And then the two home teams in a wild card series will be the other of the Mets and the Braves and the Cardinals. So then you'll have two more teams left to go play road wild card series. Right now it looks like the San Diego Padres are locked in to be one of them. The San Diego Padres, they're a tough team for me. I can't get my mind wrapped around them. They have been waiting all year for the offense to go to the next level. Manny Machado has done his absolute best to carry the offense, and he has it stretches in his numbers on his year. It's one of his best years offensively at the majors.
No one's talking about it.
And no one's talking about it. And guys on their team they've put out good. Han-Sung Kim has had a breakout year. Trent Grisham, Jurickson Profar, or Hal Farrell at different points have been good, but not consistently. But first they were waiting on their star, Tatis, to come back, and he was supposed to save their offense. We all know what happened there. Ringworm got him. And then after that, they traded for Juan Soto, Brandon Drury, and Josh Bell. And Drury was hot at the beginning. He's fallen off. And Soto and Bell have not at all performed, especially Juan Soto. He has been slumping major for them. He's 234, 397, so the on-base percentage is still pretty darn good. And a 327 slug. So the batting average and the slug are not where you want Juan Soto to be in 40 games with the Padres. Their offense has been bad. But you know what's kept them afloat? Their rotation is nasty, dude. Blake Snell, he's had an up and down year, but in his last 7 games, a 3.52 ERA, 54 strikeouts in 38 innings.
Yeah, last night he looked
When Snell's strikeout stuff is going, that's when you know he's working. He likes pitching in those highlighter uniforms. And he does pretty well in those. Yu Darvish, how about a year that's just gotten better as he went on? His year ERA, 3.05. His ERA in his last 15 starts, 2.96. His ERA in his last 7 starts, 2.42. Getting better as the season goes on.
That's what you like to see before the playoffs.
Here's what the Padres need, besides the obvious offensive fix. Joe Musgrove is their ace. He's got a 3.16 ERA on the year, but his ERA is 4.6 in his last 80 innings pitched. He has been struggling since the All-Star break.
Yeah, he had a good first half of the year, too.
Unbelievable first half, and that's why the numbers look better than where he's at right now. He needs to find it in these last 2-3 starts. Because if you have a hot Blake Snell, a hot Yu Darvish, and Joe Musgrove at where he's supposed to be, that might be the deepest 1-2-3 rotation in the majors. Their bullpen, it's fine. It's not deep. But I like what their rotation can do. I think, especially at least in a wild card series, if it's a 3-game set and you get those 3 guys to start, there's not a better 3-game besides the DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, if that's what it is. There's not a better 1-2-3 in the wild card series than those 3.
I like the Padres a lot, man. I think Juan Soto, once he gets to the playoffs, he's going to turn it around and perform well.
That's the thing you can count on, is that he's got, for such a young kid, he's got playoff experience.
Yeah, he won a World Series, and he was dominant that whole series, that whole playoff run. So I do like the Padres. Yu Darvish has been awesome. I feel like no one talks about him either.
No. Really one of the most established aces in Major League Baseball.
For a good bit now, too.
Yes, he has
the
been.
Rangers and the Padres.
Here's a fun conversation. You could say he's been one of the best pitchers to ever come over.
Yeah, definitely. He's way better than Tanaka.
Yes.
So I think that they're going to turn around. Brandon Drury he's been clutch for them a lot.
He has.
So
I was shocked. I went to look at his numbers, and I was going to have a whole thing about how he was their surprise golden goose since the deadline. The last 7 games he's played, and he was coming off an injury and stuff. He's only in the 240s, so it brings his numbers with him down to about 250, which still really in this Major League Baseball is actually not so bad.
Yeah.
But he's hit homers for them, especially when he first came over. He was that offensive spark they needed, and he was kind of carrying that. And if you're looking for a positive spin, talk about the last 7 games. Juan Soto's last 7 games, 333 average, 467 on base, a 542 slug. So he might just be fighting it. And most importantly, people kind of wrote him off. Josh Hader, brutal when he first came over. How about you want to know his last 7 games?
Yeah.
7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts.
There you go. Everyone was saying how that was
0 ERA. So his last 7, I don't know if it's 7 appearances or 7 innings, but he's put out basically a shutout start with 7 Ks his last 7 innings.
When they first got him, you were looking at in his performances, and you're like, would you even trust him in a playoff series? But now you got a little bit more of a better feeling.
It's a weird spin zone, but when a guy's that bad, he's injured or it's his mechanics.
Yeah.
And it's almost better when it is his mechanics because it means the fix is in there. Mm-hmm. The Brewers must have saw it, and that's why they thought, oh, we're not going to be able to fix this mechanically this year, and so they flipped him. Seems like, hopefully, fingers crossed, if Hader and Soto are Padres, they're a sneaky playoff team. We see year after year that sneaky playoff team. Yeah. It was the Braves last year. Come in. It could be San Diego this year.
And it's funny that they're sneaky because they're so loaded.
Yes, they are.
So whoever they face up, I think it'll be a good matchup for them.
The last 2 teams to talk about in the National League, the Philadelphia Phillies currently hold the last wild card spot, and they're 2 games up on the Milwaukee Brewers. Here's what I'll say about these 2 teams. If I could combine them, I have a fantastic baseball team. Because the Phillies lineup absolutely bangs.
Yes.
The Brewers' rotation is filthy. Their bullpen is really good. Phillies' rotation, pretty darn good. Bullpen is awful.
Atrocious.
Unbelievably awful. But let me talk to you about the Phillies, because it is a fun team. They went nuts with their offense. They signed a lot of crazy guys. League average OPS is 708. They have 8 starters with an above-average league OPS. Schwarber, 796. Hoskins, 796. Harper, 907. JT, 839. Bohm, 732. Segura, 745. Brandon Marsh, since coming over, 742. Nick Maton, 973. He's been excellent for them. It's 8 guys right now that's in their starting lineup that have above average league OPSs. So they bang. How weird is it that Schwarber's is in the 7s and he's got 40 homers?
Yeah, man.
He must only be hitting homers.
I think he is. I think it's home run or bust.
I saw that and I thought I was expecting at least an 8.5 or something like that.
You didn't mention Castellanos at all.
He's injured right now, and if he comes back and clicks, then they've got 9 starters.
He hasn't clicked at all.
He has not.
And they really need him.
And his OPS for the year is it's like a 6.9 something, so he comes back and gets hot. I like their rotation. Wheeler came back last night. Huge for them. He's their game 1 starter for me. Definitely. In that wild card series. Then you got Nola and my guy Ranger. That's a solid 3 starters as well. If I'm the Phillies, I think you have to cash your chips in. And if you go into that series, you have to play to win it in 2 games. Yeah. You do Nola and Wheeler, and you put Ranger in the bullpen. Because I think if you can bring Ranger out as the middle guy to try and get it to... They have 3 good relievers. David Robertson has been good since they acquired him. Not great, but good. Yeah. Sir Anthony Dominguez was their closer. He's got a 5 ERA in his last 13 innings. And actually, their hottest reliever is veteran Jose Alvarado. He's been really good for them the last month, a 1.92 ERA in his last 15 games. Yeah. So if you could use Ranger to get you to like Alvarado and Robertson in an 8.9, I can tolerate that. But especially if the Phillies were to go on to the DS or the CS, bullpens get exposed. Bullpens win you playoff series. It's too shallow. They would get exposed very badly.
Rob Thompson's going to have to make something up to avoid that bullpen at all costs, honestly. But if they ride that offense and their offense is clicking, because I believe they can in the playoffs against these pitching rotations that they'll possibly face, I think they have a good chance. I do like the Phillies, man. If you talk about the Padres being loaded, the Phillies offensively are loaded.
They are.
JT has been low-key one of the best catchers this year.
8.39 OPS. I think him and Will Smith are the 1 and 2 in terms of catchers in baseball.
It's been crazy. And I don't even know if Bryce Harper's like 100% healthy.
He hasn't been. Or maybe his mechanics, he just doesn't quite on his swing yet.
Yeah.
These last couple of games now, it looks like he's just started to get a couple of hits. But the numbers since coming off the IL have been bad for him.
Yeah.
But he's a guy, bright lights, prime time playoffs. You trust
he's going to be a stud.
They got a lot of guys, I think, you trust in a playoff situation. So I like their lineup. And for that reason, I hope they take Milwaukee. They take the spot, and they don't let Milwaukee catch them. We just saw Milwaukee. They took 2 out of 3 from our Yanks. Mm-hmm. They can pitch. Woodruff and Burns are an excellent 1-2. Devin Williams and a slew of other guys in the bullpen are pretty quality, but their lineup is... I like Hunter Renfroe and Willie Adames a lot. I respect both those guys.
I like Rowdy, too.
Rowdy and Yelich have also had good years. So you could even say their 1, 2, 3, 4 are solid guys, but they're not even on the level of Judge. No one's on the level of Judge, but they're not on the Judge, Alvarez, Manny Machado.
They would be bottom of the order.
They'd be probably 4 through like 8 or 4 through 7 on the Yankees lineup, the Astros lineup, the Blue Jays lineup, the Mets lineup, the Braves lineup, right? So it's just not good enough for me. I mean, they're 2 games back. They could certainly take it from Philadelphia, but to me, I hope they don't, just because I think it breeds better playoff baseball.
Yeah. If they make the playoffs, it's gonna be just like a 0-0 game. Because their pitching is awesome.
Yes.
Their pitching is incredible. But man, like you have Jace Peterson starting. That's not.
I mean, Jace Peterson and Colton Wong are in the heart of their lineup. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, they're quality Major League Baseball players. They're just not playoff winning Major League Baseball players.
No, but I do like Willie Adames. He's had a breakout year this year, and he's gonna
one of the best win-win trades in Major League Baseball.
Definitely
has been Adames for Rasmussen, because Rasmussen has been the Rays. I mean, McClanahan's been so good, so it's hard to say that, but he's probably been their second best starter, most consistent starter all year. And Willie Adames went over to Milwaukee, and he provided exactly what they needed, which was a lot of pop from their infield. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jordan Montgomery, Harrison Bader trade is looked at in the same light a year from now. It's hard to do the Bader sample size because it's been 3 games, but Yankees fans have liked what they saw. But that was another trade that 2 guys that it wasn't necessarily... They were both good where they were at, but they were sent to teams where they could really thrive. I love trades like that, where you see both guys kick it to the next level.
It's a real handshake, man.
It is.
That's what you want in trades like that. But, yeah, like you said, I hope the Brewers don't make it. Yeah. For the case of,
I think Philly's the better option just in terms of entertaining playoff baseball.
And we live in Philly, too, so, we like the Phillies.
Citizens Bank.
Like the Phillies.
I like the Phillies too, man.
I always root for them.
My guy Rob Thompson. Love Rob Thompson.
Yeah, man.
Been a key part of the Yankees clubhouse for many years.
If they do get Castellanos back healthy, and he is like the Castellanos when he was on the Cubs or the Reds, that would be gigantic for them.
Huge for them. Now, let's do the same thing we did with the American League wild card. So, who do you want the second seed to be so I can do this? In the National League.
The Braves.
Okay, so the Mets and Cardinals host the 2 wild card series. They cannot play each other.
Okay.
So, let me make sure I'm right. Yes. Because they're so separated from each other. So, Padres against 2 and Phillies against 2. Who do you want to see?
Padres against Mets, Phillies against Cardinals.
I like both of those series a lot.
Yeah. Padres and Mets would just be absolutely...
It would be an unbelievable... It would be the best 2 rotations probably in the National League matching up.
It would help out Juan Soto, too, because he played for the Nationals a lot before he got traded, so he knows the Mets pitching staff. He knows how to...
DeGrom, Bassett, and especially their bullpen. He knows Seth Lugo, Dave Peterson, Adam Ottavino. He's matched up with a lot of those guys.
So if I'm a Padres fan, I would honestly rather face the Cardinals, but I mean, I
think both are fun too. And even if you put Atlanta there, it's fun. Because if it's Atlanta and Philly, that's fun. If it's Atlanta and San Diego, that's awesome.
Or if it's Phillies Mets, that's because they're huge rivals.
Yeah.
That would be fun too. Honestly, you could go any way with that side. AL East, I would rather, certain matchups, but this, I don't really care. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's so exciting to be so close to it.
Yeah.
I want to end on this note. You ready?
Yes.
Rapid fire MLB questions. I just want your gut instinct on this, okay? They are all just questions about... Yes, I have an answer for each too, but I wrote mine down, so I'm cheating.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yankees leadoff hitter in the playoffs.
Aaron Judge,
I agree. Dodgers Game 1 starter in the playoffs.
Clayton Kershaw.
Julio Urias, because they can use him Game 1 and flip him into the bullpen. See how the series plays out. I think you've seen his stuff translate bullpen well before. Yeah. So if you put him Game 1 and then you win Game 2 or 3, you don't need to start him Game 4. You could start Heaney and then have him in the bullpen, later on.
I do want to go back to that last question about the leadoff hitter. If Benintendi's healthy, I would rather Benintendi and then Judge too. Even
if Benintendi doesn't play a single regular season game, you still do that?
Yes.
I like that. Mets Game 1 starter, Scherzer or DeGrom?
DeGrom.
Scherzer. I like the playoff experience for Scherzer. I can't think of, has DeGrom ever pitched in the playoffs? Was he a part of their World Series run in 15?
I think he was with the long hair.
Okay.
I think he was.
It's a different...
I'll have to... What was it? 2015?
Yeah, I think so, 2015.
Yeah, he was on the team, yeah.
So I say Scherzer, it's... you can, either way, no one would question it. They're both really, really rock starters, but I just like his play... he's got lots of playoff experience, so I like
he
that.
He sets the tone, too. He has the different colored eyes. He gets you scared. That's a good point.
Last question. It can't be the Yankees, the Astros, the Mets, Braves, or Dodgers. Okay? Who wins the World Series?
Padres.
I also wrote the Padres.
Nice.
I said, we've seen, and I said this earlier in the show, pitching carry mediocre offenses. The offense has a chance that if Juan Soto and Manny Machado and Brandon Drury, along with the rest of the guys, get going, it doesn't need to be mediocre. Plus, that rotation, if all those guys click, they could run through the playoffs too.
They just have too much talent. I think they just have too many guys that could win you ball games. So, yeah, I'm going with the Padres.
You got anything else, bud?
No, I think that's it for me. I'm just excited to see where the
best time of year
goes into.
Best time of year. Cannot beat it.
We can't beat it. And thank you for watching. I mean, you guys should comment below to see who you guys think will win.
Yeah, please let us know who you think who's going to win Week 3 matchups in the NFL. Who's going to win MLB playoff series? Who do you guys like going into it? I think once the playoffs are locked in, I'd love to do a show kind of breaking down. We can actually lean into the matchups, not as hypothetical, but actually seeing and saying, okay, it's going to be Phillies, Mets. It's going to be, and I think that would be a blast. And plus, I think in another week or two when we're here talking about the NFL, Week 3, Week 4, the pack will separate itself. We're going to start to know, okay, the Colts really are bad. Yeah. Or, okay, the Rams are over their hangover. So it'll be fun to see. We're getting to the point now where both in baseball and in football, for different reasons, the crowd's going to kind of thin out.
Yeah, and if you guys want us to talk about anything else that we didn't discuss,
please, let
us know. Pinetar and Pigskin.
Pinetar and Pigskin, thanks for joining us, guys. What a pleasure. Everyone have a good day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.